Chapter 467. More than 10,000 soldiers would be boundless. More than 100,000 soldiers would be difficult for even birds to cross. At this moment, if one were to look down from the sky, they would see that the huge dock of Zhongzhou City was densely packed with soldiers. On the surface of the sea, there were all kinds of warships. Yang Dingtian estimated that there were at least 30 or so soldiers boarding the warships at the same time. Each warship carried 200 to 500 soldiers. At this moment, there were at least a few hundred warships anchored on the surface of the sea. Of course, not every warship carried soldiers. There were also all kinds of crystals, armor, weapons, rations, and so on. It was not that the northwest continent could not provide for the expeditionary army of Zhongzhou City. Instead, the forces of Zhongzhou City were expressing their attitude. They were at odds with Yang Dingtian. Therefore, they brought their own rations and armor to eliminate Yang Dingtian, who was in the so-called evil ways. It was a disguised show of loyalty. Yang Dingtian stepped onto a random warship. This warship was obviously different. It was much more luxurious. Moreover, there weren't any densely packed troops. They were all experts from various sects and clans. This warship was obviously bigger than the other warships, but there were only a few dozen people on it. The lowest treatment was 4 people to a cabin. As for Yang Dingtian, who was impersonating Dugu Qiubai, it was even more exaggerated. He occupied a large cabin that was dozens of square meters. There was everything inside. Soon, all the warships at the dock were ready. They immediately left the dock and came to the surface of the sea. They gathered with the other warships and formed a sharp knife formation. Yang Dingtian stood on the deck and looked at the surrounding densely packed battleships. Yang Dingtian's warship was the 5th warship. The 4 warships in front were bigger and more majestic. Then, a high-ranking officer of the Zhongzhou Taiyuan League rode a golden eagle and hovered in the air. He shouted, "Zhongzhou City's 5th Expeditionary Army is assembled. Shall we depart?" "Depart." A woman's voice came from the leading warship. Yang Dingtian knew this voice. It was First Madame Gong Sun of the 7 Refined Lane. He did not expect the 7 Refined Lane to participate. Obviously, First Madame Gong Sun was the commander of the 5th Expeditionary Force. "Yes." The Central Province Taiyuan League officer said loudly, "All warships, set off." Hundreds of warships formed a knife-shaped formation, and like a giant beast, they began to move toward the northwest continent. That's right, it was flying. It was because this place was filled with crystal warships, and they were of a much higher grade than Ling Wu's crystal warship. Hundreds of battleships and more than 100,000 soldiers were heading toward the northwest continent. At the same time, a dense wave of cries could be heard. Yang Dingtian turned his head abruptly. Suddenly, the sky was filled with golden light, illuminating the sea. The light was brighter than the sun, so bright that Yang Dingtian could barely open his eyes. From the distant land, countless golden eagles soared into the sky. It was pitch black, blotting out the sky and the sun. Yang Dingtian's body trembled violently as he was greatly alarmed. The Eagle Nest's Golden Condor Legion was mobilized. The Eagle Nest was one of the 27 sects of the Central State. It was famous for its Golden Condor Army. In the entire chaotic continent, there were 2 forces that possessed powerful air forces. The first was the Earth Fisher City. The second was the Eagle Nest. The Eagle Nest's Golden Condor Legion was not as powerful as the Earth Fisher City's shredding demon vultures. However, their numbers were much greater. At this moment, Yang Dingtian could clearly see that the Eagle Nest's Golden Condor Legion had completely covered the sky. There were more than 10,000 of them. Had the Eagle Nest gone mad? They had actually mobilized more than 10,000 Golden Condor Legion for an expedition of 10,000 miles. Looking at the densely packed Golden Condor Legion in the sky, Yang Dingtian's eyes suddenly shrank. This was a problem, a huge problem. Although Yang Dingtian had the extremely powerful Devil Dragon Legion, it was only the overlord of the land after all. It was of no use to the Golden Condor Legion. Of course, Yang Dingtian also had a winged cavalry team in his hands. However, there were only a few hundred of them. Every winged mount demonic beast was extremely precious and difficult to tame. Therefore, among the forces in the world, only the Earth Fisher City and the Eagle Nest had the most elite flying cavalry troops. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's few hundred flying cavalry troops could only be used for patrolling or for fast transportation. Moreover, the flying mounts of Cloud Sky City were not combat mounts. Facing the ferocious golden condors, even 10 of them might not be able to defeat one. He had to find a way to deal with this Golden Condor Legion. Otherwise, any defensive line built by Cloud Sky City would be useless against this Golden Condor Legion. This Golden Condor Legion could effortlessly fly above Cloud Sky City and swoop down to destroy everything. This air force was fatal. He had to find a way to deal with it. What was the best solution? Of course, it was to find a stronger air force. In this world, which force had the strongest air force? Without a doubt, it was the Earth Fisher City. The Golden Claw Demon Condors of the Earth Fisher City had undergone thousands of years of evolution and transformation. Currently, each Golden Claw Demon Condor's body was 3 times larger. Its entire body was as hard as steel, and even its feathers were as sharp as swords. Just like the Demon Dragon Legion on land, the Golden Claw Demon Condor Legion was the overlord of the air. The number of adult Golden Claw Demon Condors in the Earth Fisher City that were capable of fighting should not exceed 3,000. However, against the Golden Condor Legion of the Eagle Nest City, the Golden Claw Demon Condors could take on 10 of them. Previously, Yang Dingtian had thought of borrowing the Golden Claw Demon Condor Legion from the Earth Fisher City. However, considering that he had no relationship with Kuei Si and that he had the 4th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, he would have to pay a huge price in exchange. Therefore, it was impossible to borrow the Golden Claw Demon Condor Legion. However, he did not expect that Kuei Si would be so determined to stand with Yang Dingtian at the Tiando League. In that case, Yang Dingtian could already treat the Earth Fisher City as his most loyal ally. He could totally borrow the Golden Claw Demon Condor Legion and even request for the Earth Fisher City to participate in the war. After hearing Kuei Si's attitude at the Tiando League, Yang Dingtian was hesitant about whether he should make a trip to the Earth Fisher City before the war. At this time, there was no need to hesitate. Even though the war was imminent and was about to happen. However, since the Eagle Nest City had sent out tens of thousands of air forces, Yang Dingtian had to go to the Earth Fisher City to ask for help. Only the Golden Condor Legion could eliminate the Golden Condor Legion. If he had the Golden Condor Legion, Yang Dingtian's secret weapon could be unleashed to the maximum in an instant. It was even more exaggerated to say that if he had the Golden Condor Legion, Yang Dingtian could effortlessly eliminate the hundreds of thousands of troops on the ground. Moreover, he had the 4th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Although time was tight, he had to go to the Earth Fisher City. The Earth Fisher City and the Sky Cloud Pavilion were located 5,500 miles southwest of the Middle State. This was a single piece of land that spanned over 5,000 miles. This piece of land was originally called the Southern Ingzhou. However, because the island where the Black Heaven sect was located was called Ingzhou Island, Zhu Qingzhou tyrannically ordered the Tiando League to change the name of the Southern Ingzhou. Therefore, in the official language of the Tiando League, the Southern Ingzhou was changed to the Southern Laizhou. However, the Earth Fisher City and the Sky Cloud Pavilion still stubbornly used the Southern Ingzhou. Although it was a few thousand miles away from the Middle State, the Southern Ingzhou still belonged to the Middle State Tiando League. Just like how the World Society belonged to the Northwest Tiando League even though it was located in the north. The huge fleet continued to sail towards the northwest continent. Each fleet spanned over 100 miles, and there were hundreds of warships. They were majestic and filled with an aura that could sweep everything away. This was only the 5th fleet of the Middle State Expeditionary Army. Of course, This was also the most powerful fleet of the Middle State Expeditionary Army. The powerful Golden Condor Legion flew above the fleet, shining with golden light and blotting out the sun. Of course, they could not fly over 10,000 miles in one go. Every 2,000 miles, they would land on the fleet and take turns to rest. 16 hours later, the fleet had sailed 2,000 miles. At this moment, the fleet was in the north of the southern Ingzhou. They were only 4,000 miles away from the Earth Fisher City. Furthermore, the sky was already completely dark. It was already the closest to the Earth Fisher City from here. Yang Dingtian used his invisibility mystic skill and jumped off the warship and into the sea. Then, he followed the bottom of the sea and headed south. Even at the bottom of the sea, Yang Dingtian's speed was shocking. He tore through the sea like a swordfish and traveled 200 to 300 miles per hour. After traveling a few hundred miles under the sea, Yang Dingtian suddenly rose into the air and flew out of the sea. He used his flying mystic skill and flew towards the Earth Fisher City. Yang Dingtian flew at full speed and reached a speed of 600 to 700 miles per hour. After 6 hours, he saw the southern Ingzhou. At this moment, the sky had just lit up. The southern Ingzhou could be said to have the strangest and most complicated terrain in the world. The ground in the north was deeply sunken. The ground in the south was raised high. The entire northern part of the southern Ingzhou was filled with incomparably huge cracks and collapses. Flat ground was very rare. Therefore, these precious flat ground were used to grow crops. The houses that people wanted to live in were all built in the huge cracks, in the collapsed depressions. Therefore, the power in the north was called the Earth Fisher City. And in the south, the entire ground rose crazily and formed a huge plateau. The average altitude was 5,000 to 6,000 meters. Therefore, the power in the south was called the Cloud Sky Pavilion. Of course, logically speaking, the Cloud Sky Pavilion, which was a few thousand meters above sea level, should have an extremely developed air force. And the Earth Fisher City, which had collapsed underground, should have a developed navy. But the result was the complete opposite. The Earth Fisher City had the world's #1 air force, the Demon Eagle Army. The Cloud Sky Pavilion, on the other hand, had the world's #1 navy, the Sun Crystal warship. Why was it like this? The reason was simple. For the past 1,000 years, the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Earth Fisher City had been fighting for the entire southern Ingzhou. But because one was underground and the other was a few thousand meters above sea level, it was difficult for them to fight each other. In order to attack the Cloud Sky Pavilion, the Earth Fisher City desperately developed their air force. And the Cloud Sky Pavilion, in order to attack the Earth Fisher City, desperately developed their navy. Over time, the two powers that had been fighting for nearly 1,000 years had the world's #1 air force and the world's #1 navy. And a few decades ago, because Kuei Si and the Cloud Sky Pavilion master had a regretful and tangled relationship. Although the two of them did not end up together, the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Earth Fisher City finally stopped the 1,000 years of war and restored peace. In fact, it was not just peace. On many key occasions, the two of them still advanced and retreated together. Moreover, the relationship between the two of them had always been ambiguous. Kuei Si got married, but the Cloud Sky Pavilion master was still alone. Therefore, a very strange scene appeared. The disciples of the Cloud Sky Pavilion and the Earth Fisher City were like fire and water, extremely hostile to each other. But the masters of the two powers were ambiguous and close, advancing and retreating together. But in this way, it became even more difficult for the Temple of Annihilation to completely conquer this land. A few hundred miles away from the Earth Fisher City, dozens of Demon Eagle cavalry had already discovered Yang Dingtian. Immediately, the Golden Claw Demon Eagle rushed towards Yang Dingtian like lightning. Yang Dingtian was shocked. He was flying at a height of nearly 10,000 meters. Practically no flying mount would be able to reach such a height. However, the golden-clawed demonic eagle was able to reach it effortlessly. What was even more terrifying was that the flying speed of these golden claw demon eagles was so astonishing, even exceeding Yang Dingtian's full speed. The moment they rushed over, they were like lightning. Yang Dingtian even felt that this flying speed was comparable to the ordinary fighter jets on Earth, almost reaching 1,000 miles per hour. Moreover, each demon eagle was much bigger and sharper than Yang Dingtian had imagined. They were 7 to 8 meters long, but they were not bloated at all. They looked very sharp and slender. Their entire bodies were as sharp as swords and as hard as iron. Sure enough, they were the overlords of the sky. Yang Dingtian was suddenly filled with a huge desire for this demon eagle army. Almost instantly, dozens of demon eagle cavalry surrounded Yang Dingtian from top to bottom. Who are you? The northern part of Yingzhou extends for 500 miles. It is a no-fly zone. You have broken into the airspace of our earth-splitting city. Immediately surrender. The leader of the Demon Eagle Cavalry shouted sternly. Cloud Sky City Lord Yang Dingtian is here to pay a visit to earth-splitting city Lord Kuei Si. Yang Dingtian said loudly. The leader of the cavalry looked shocked and said, Your Excellency, are you Yang Dingtian? Yes. Yang Dingtian said. Immediately, the cavalry bowed and said, Greetings to Your Excellency Yang Dingtian. Greetings to Your Excellency Yang Dingtian. Immediately, the remaining dozens of cavalry all bowed respectfully. Yang Dingtian's heart warmed. This was almost the best treatment he had received. Previously, whether Yang Dingtian went to the Northwest Qin City, the World Club, or the Vulture Palace, he was met with sarcasm, disdain, and cold eyes. Only here was he met with sincere and respectful gazes. Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, please follow us. The leader of the Demon Eagle Cavalry said. Then, dozens of demon eagles formed a sharp sword shape, protecting Yang Dingtian in it, and swooped down toward the earth-splitting city. This was the first time Yang Dingtian saw the earth-splitting city. He had seen countless ingenious buildings, but the earth-splitting city was still an eye-opener for him. This was an underground city with countless houses. The entire city was built in a huge crack. One layer after another, they went down until they were thousands of meters underground. Under the lead of dozens of Demon Eagle Cavalry, Yang Dingtian flew into a narrow crack. That's right, it was a very narrow crack. At most, only dozens of people could enter. But after entering the crack, an incomparably huge city suddenly came to him. Below the crack, there was an incomparably huge and complicated underground space. Layer upon layer, layer upon layer, layer upon layer. Yang Dingtian saw the most complicated and bizarre city in the world. At the same time, it was also the easiest city to defend and the hardest to attack. No wonder even if Kuei Si roared, Zhu Qingzhu and the others still didn't dare to expel the earth-splitting city from the Tiando League and didn't dare to treat them as enemies. Because this earth-splitting city was really an impenetrable fortress. If one wanted to attack the earth-splitting city, the army was useless. One could only use the air force. However, the world's most powerful air force was in the hands of the earth-splitting city. Of course, some people might say to attack with water. However, the fissure under the underground city was incomparably huge. Moreover, there was a bottomless underground river. Perhaps the entire sea would have to be poured down in order to submerge the fissure city. Otherwise, no matter how big the water was, it would disappear without a trace. The earth-splitting city's main hall was in the deepest part of the underground city. Under the lead of the Demon Eagle Cavalry, Yang Dingtian flew into a small hole, and then 7 or 8 circles, passed through a long tunnel. Phew! Finally, Yang Dingtian and the others arrived at the center of the earth-splitting city's power. Devour Fortress. This was an underground palace, an underground castle. At this moment, the door was closed. Sir Yang Dingtian, please. The leader of the Demon Eagle Cavalry said. Yang Dingtian took a step forward and said loudly, Cloud Sky City's Lord, Yang Dingtian, pays his respects to the earth-splitting city's Lord, Kuei-si. Rumble. In front of them, the door of the Devour Fortress slowly opened. Chapter 468. Devour Fortress. The opened door was pitch black, like the entrance to hell. Yang Dingtian slowly walked in. This was an incomparably huge hall. Around the hall, dozens of people sat high up, looking down at Yang Dingtian. Quang. Instantly, the door slammed shut. Instantly, Yang Dingtian's vision turned completely dark. He could not even see his own fingers. Yang Dingtian's cultivation was very high, so even in the dark, he could see clearly. But here, he could not see anything because there was no light at all. You are Cloud Sky City's mayor, Yang Dingtian? A cold and arrogant voice came from the incomparably huge hall. Yang Dingtian had indeed heard this voice before. It was during the Demon City's Merchant Hall's auction. This person was Earth-Splitting City's mayor, Kuei-si. Yes. Yang Dingtian bowed and said, Cloud Sky City's mayor, Yang Dingtian, pays his respects to Senior Kuei-si. Why have you come to my Earth-Splitting City? Kuei-si asked indifferently. Yang Dingtian said, firstly, to thank Senior Kuei-si for speaking up for justice at the Tiando League. Secondly, to form an alliance between Cloud Sky City and Earth-Splitting City. Thirdly, to borrow the Demon Eagle army from Earth-Splitting City. Fourthly, to trade the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship with Kuei-si. Yang Dingtian was very straightforward and didn't bother with formalities. He felt that in front of a stubborn and arrogant person like Kuei-si, there was no need to be polite. You don't have to be polite. Kuei-si said, I am a person, 1 is 1, 2 is 2. What I said at the Tiando League was not for you, but for myself. Following that, Kuei-si said, you want to trade the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship with me, what are you willing to pay? Yang Dingtian was momentarily stunned. Kuei-si had actually skipped the second, third, and directly went to the fourth. After calming himself down, he still said respectfully, I'm willing to give you a Cosmos ring. With this Cosmos ring, it can reflect all the damage. Of course, the limit is the highest cultivation of the wearer. This ring was originally prepared for Song Shao. But Song Shao had fallen out with him, so he decided to give it to Kuei-si. Oh, you couldn't give this ring to Song Shao and now you're giving it to me. Kuei-si said indifferently, do you think that I, Kuei-si, can't compare to Song Shao? You're only giving it to me because he doesn't want it anymore. Yang Dingtian bowed and said, I wouldn't dare. Then, Yang Dingtian said, in fact, I wasn't even going to take out this ring. Because I respect Senior Kuei-si's character, I decided to directly ask for the fourth stage of the pig-slaying sword art. The only thing I can give you is my respect, my favor, and my promise. But you asked me what I was going to use in exchange, so I can only give you this Cosmos ring for now. Then, Yang Dingtian continued, this time, I came to Earth-Splitting City not for the fourth stage of the pig-slaying sword art, but to form an alliance with the great Earth-Splitting City to fight against the evil ways. Forming an alliance with Cloud Sky City. Kuei-si said indifferently, what can Earth-Splitting City get? Yang Dingtian was stunned again. Why was Kuei-si having such an attitude? But, Yang Dingtian still said seriously, Earth-Splitting City will get my most loyal friendship. You're too hypocritical. Be more direct. Kuei-si said. After forming an alliance, I will advance and retreat together with Earth-Splitting City. We'll live and die together. If Earth-Splitting City encounters any danger, Yang Dingtian and Cloud Sky City will do our best, even if we have to pay with our lives. Yang Dingtian said hot-bloodedly, moreover, I'm about to set up the Xian Energy Condensation Purification Array. Earth-Splitting City will unconditionally enjoy half of it. When Earth-Splitting City is attacked, no matter how far away it is, Cloud Sky City will do our best to fight alongside Earth-Splitting City. Yang Dingtian's intense and fiery voice resonated throughout the entire main hall. He didn't talk about money or treasures. He felt that it was shameful to say these things. But, he was willing to give the most precious thing. That was his promise. Maybe to others, these words were hypocritical. But to Yang Dingtian, these were the limits of what he could give. Without a doubt, Sir Yang Dingtian, I believe in the sincerity of your words. Kuei Si said, but, I don't think Earth-Splitting City needs to form an alliance with you. No one can do anything to Earth-Splitting City, and no one can attack Earth-Splitting City. Even if it's evil ways, even if it's the Legion of Doom. Kuei Si said arrogantly, Earth-Splitting City has the most complicated terrain in the world. It has the most powerful aerial army in the world. My underground city will never be broken. It will never be defeated. So, we don't need to form an alliance with anyone. Then, Kuei Si looked at Yang Dingtian from the darkness and said, City Lord Yang Dingtian, I respect you very much. I also admire your sincerity and bravery. But I don't think you can win this war. I think you and Cloud Sky City's destruction is a foregone conclusion. So, you can't help Earth-Splitting City in the future. The so-called profound Qi condensation purification array can't be built either. I don't think you have any hope of winning in this hopeless war. Of course, respected City Lord Yang Dingtian, I'm willing to give you unlimited blessings. I'm also willing to give you a golden claw demon eagle. But, forget about the alliance. Earth-Splitting City doesn't rely on anyone. There's also no need to talk about borrowing troops. Kuei Si said indifferently, as for the 4th rank of the pig-slaying sword art, if you can survive this war, then when you come to Earth-Splitting City, I'll give it to you unconditionally. But now, forget about it. If you're destined to be destroyed, then I don't think you should waste the 4th rank of the pig-slaying sword art. Then, the main hall fell into silence. Yang Dingtian's heart was ice cold. He really didn't think that it would end like this. Previously, he was really full of hope for Kuei Si. But, he didn't think that he would be so arrogant and so stubborn. Alright, respected City Lord Yang Dingtian, the war is imminent. I won't keep you as a guest. I believe that everyone in Cloud Sky City is also waiting for you. Please go back. Kuei Si smiled and said, the Golden Claw Demon Eagle that I'm giving you will be waiting for you outside Earth-Splitting City. Rumble. Then, the city gate opened. Outside, a faint light shone in. Yang Dingtian saw City Lord Kuei Si sitting high up in the air again. There were also more than 10 elders of Earth-Splitting City around him. At this moment, everyone was looking at Yang Dingtian with pitiful and apathetic eyes. Looking at them, they didn't look like humans. Instead, they looked like Buddha statues in the main hall. At this moment, no words could describe the disappointment in Yang Dingtian's heart. He endured the incomparable bitterness and anger, bowed deeply towards Kuei Si, and then retreated and left. Because Kuei Si and Earth-Splitting City didn't owe him anything. If there was no resonance in his heart, Yang Dingtian couldn't expect to get anything here. After walking out of Devour City, the leading demon eagle knight immediately came up to Yang Dingtian and looked at him with a questioning gaze. Yang Dingtian shook his head bitterly. Suddenly, the demon eagle knight's expression darkened and said bitterly, I'll send you out. Yang Dingtian said. Then, under the protection of dozens of demon eagle knights, Yang Dingtian flew through the long tunnel and came to the huge underground city. He kept flying up and rushed out of Earth-Splitting City's crack, and came to the surface. At this moment, a huge golden claw demon eagle was flying in circles on the ground. This was the gift that Kuei Si had given to Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian smiled bitterly in his heart. He wanted to borrow an army, but the other party gave him one. This made Yang Dingtian think of some jokes on Earth. Someone asked to borrow 10,000 yuan, and the other party directly gave him 300 yuan and said to take it and spend it, and there was no need to return it. Yang Dingtian was disappointed and even angry, but he couldn't complain. He could blame Earth-Splitting City for being short-sighted, but he couldn't resent it because the other party didn't owe him anything. On the contrary, Yang Dingtian still owed him a huge favor. Yang Dingtian didn't want this golden claw demon eagle. He used a mystical skill and flew towards the north. This visit, from beginning to end, did not exceed 2 hours. He came with great hope, but left with great disappointment. "I'm sorry," the demon eagle knight said. "No, it's nothing. Yang Dingtian, remember, in the future, when Earth-splitting city needs me, Yang Dingtian, I will still appear from the northern sky, and I will still fight side by side with Earth-splitting city." Immediately, dozens of demon eagle knights' eyes turned hot, and they bowed deeply. Yang Dingtian flew towards the north at full speed. After flying for hundreds of miles, there was a vast sea below. Suddenly, a sharp ship drilled out of the sea, and then it split open, and a person walked out. A thin and tall young man, dressed in black, with disheveled hair, red eyes, deep eyes, and a high nose. "I am Earth-splitting city's young Lord Kuei Ning. Greetings to City Lord Yang Dingtian." The thin young man bowed and said, "Can I invite City Lord Yang Dingtian to come down for a chat?" Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned, and then he landed on the strange ship. "Please," Kuei Ning said, and then he went into the cabin. Yang Dingtian also followed. Immediately, the strange ship drilled into the sea again. This strange ship was not big, and it was very similar to the submarines on Earth. It also had 2 pointed ends, and it was convenient to sneak under the sea. In the narrow cabin, Kuei Ning bowed and said, "This is a matter of great importance, so Kuei Ning can only wait here for City Lord Yang Dingtian." Yang Dingtian said in shock, "What happened? I was in Earth-splitting city just now, why didn't young lord ask to meet me there?" Kuei Ning said, "May I ask City Lord Yang, why did you come to my Earth-splitting city this time?" Alliance, borrow troops. Yang Dingtian, unfortunately, your father has already rejected. He is very arrogant. May I ask City Lord Yang Dingtian, what are you willing to pay for the alliance and borrowing troops? Kuei Ning asked. Yang Dingtian, I will give everything I have, and I will become the most loyal ally of Earth-splitting city. As long as Earth-splitting city upholds justice, I will never betray them. In the future, as long as Earth-splitting city needs help, no matter who or what forces threaten Earth-splitting city or invade Earth-splitting city, I, Yang Dingtian, will give everything I have to fight side by side with Earth-splitting city, even if it costs me my life. Yang Dingtian spoke each and every word passionately. He repeated this oath that sounded extremely hypocritical but was actually extremely sincere. Inside the cabin, there was not a single sound. After a long time, Kuei Ning said, "I believe your words, Earth-splitting city is willing to form an alliance with you. We are willing to lend troops." Yang Dingtian was stunned for a moment, then he bowed and said, "Thank you for your kindness, young city lord, but your father has already rejected. That person is not my father." Kuei Ning said in a trembling voice, "In fact, ever since my father left Eastern Cloud State, he has completely disappeared. I had no choice but to ask the Cloud Sky Pavilion for help, and they sent out a few hundred secret submarines to search everywhere. They did not find any trace of my father." Yang Dingtian immediately shivered as he hissed, "City Lord Kuei Si has gone missing?" If that was the case, then it would be a huge blow to the forces of justice. The worst-case scenario would be that Kuei Si had already fallen into the hands of the Temple of Annihilation. However, perhaps the situation has not reached the worst yet. Kuei Ning said, "In fact, the Evil Way's emissary, Wu Maji, came to Earth-splitting city to negotiate and bribe us. He offered a huge price in exchange for us to send troops to attack Cloud Sky City, even if it was just a symbolic attack. Therefore, I am guessing that my father has not fallen into their hands. Otherwise, they would not have offered such a high price." Yang Dingtian nodded. However, if Kuei Si had not fallen into the hands of the Evil Ways, then where had he gone? One had to know that his cultivation was infinitely close to that of a grandmaster. There were not many people in the world who could kill him. Kuei Ning continued, in order to not affect the morale of the troops, we have always claimed that my father has returned to Earth-splitting city. Therefore, the person who spoke to you just now was actually my father's substitute." Yang Dingtian immediately let out a long sigh of relief. He felt that it was strange. Kuei Si should not be such an arrogant and short-sighted person. Although he had an intense temperament, he was definitely not a shallow person. Yang Dingtian was pleasantly surprised. Then, the attitude in the main hall just now was also fake. Earth-splitting city is willing to lend troops and is willing to join the alliance. No. Kuei Ning said, everything that my father's substitute said just now was true. It was the attitude of the Earth-splitting city's Elders Guild. They are currently facing great pressure. Although they have not agreed to the Evil Way's request, they definitely do not dare to ally with you and openly oppose the Evil Ways. My father's disappearance has caused them to feel unprecedented fear. Following which, Earth-splitting city's young Lord Kuei Ning continued, when the news of my father roaring at the Tiando League spread, he immediately disappeared. Earth-splitting city entered its most tense and most fearful period. We knew that when you heard the news of the Tiando League, you would definitely come to Earth-splitting city to request for an alliance. Therefore, after some discussion, they decided to reject your request. Then, they waited for you to come knocking on their door. Yang Dingtian nodded, I can understand. Kuei Ning said, when my father went to participate in the Tiando League, he once told me solemnly that if there was a day where he could not return, if he lost all traces of him, I would not look for him. He told me not to look for him and not to panic. He told me to lead the Demon Vulture Army to Cloud Sky City to participate in the war. He said that if you won, he would have a chance to live. If you lost, then Earth-splitting city was destined to be destroyed. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. He did not expect that under Kuei Si's stubborn face, there would be such a far-sighted and brave vision. Kuei Ning continued, therefore, I once argued with the Elders Guild to request for an alliance with Cloud Sky City and to send troops to participate in the war. However, the conservative and fearful Elders Guild still rejected my suggestion. Therefore, when I knew that you came to Earth-splitting city, I knew that you would definitely be rejected. Therefore, I waited for you here. Yang Dingtian bowed deeply once again and said, thank you, young City Lord. City Lord Yang Dingtian, I am willing to lead 1,000 Demon Vulture Army to Cloud Sky City and fight alongside you. Kuei Ning bowed deeply and said, from now on, until the war ends, I will obey any of your orders. Yang Dingtian's heart was surging with emotions. He did not say anything and could only bow deeply. 1,000 Demon Vulture Army was more than enough. It was better than Yang Dingtian's expectations. He originally thought that even if he borrowed a few hundred Demon Vulture Army, it would be enough. After all, this was the trump card of Earth-splitting city and there were only about 3,000 of them. Moreover, Earth-splitting city was also very dangerous. This trump card army still had to protect the entire Earth-splitting city and even the entire southern Yingzhou. 1,000 Demon Vulture cavalry was enough to destroy the 10,000 Golden Eagle army in the Eagle Nest. It was even enough to deal a devastating blow to the hundreds of thousands of ground troops. This 1,000 Demon Vulture army was enough to turn the tide of the war. Following that, Kuei Ning said with a bitter face, but there is bad news. Because of father's influence, we all secretly hope to go to Cloud Sky City to participate in the war. Therefore, the Elders Guild took away all of our commander's seals. I can't even mobilize a team of Demon Vulture cavalry now, so I have to think of a way to steal the commander's seal from the Elders Guild. Without the commander's seal, no one can mobilize a Demon Vulture cavalry. Yang Dingtian, then, where is the commander's seal now? In the secret room of the Devouring Fortress's Elder Pavilion, it is locked in an invulnerable bloody black gold box. 13 elders are guarding it day and night. Kuei Ning said, of these 13 elders, 5 are masters and 8 are 9-star revered martial artists. Therefore, there is almost no possibility of stealing it. Yang Dingtian, how big is that bloody black gold box? 5 inches square. Kuei Ning said. Then do you have an identical bloody black gold box in your hands? Yang Dingtian asked. I do have it, my father used it to store other treasures. Kuei Ning said, I can take it out. Good, then when will the Elders Guild's secret room be opened? Yang Dingtian asked. My mother has the authority to open it and check inside. Kuei Ning said. Yang Dingtian, then it's fine, I have a way to take out the commander's seal. But first, you have to give me the identical bloody black gold box. You have a way. How is that possible? Kuei Ning said, no matter how high your cultivation is, you can't take away the commander's seal in front of the 13 elders without anyone knowing. Yang Dingtian said firmly, I can. It's best not to take any risks, and you can't make a move. Kuei Ning said. If there is no risk, I will definitely not make a move. Yang Dingtian said. Kuei Ning said in shock, then I can't imagine any way to do this. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath, then used the invisibility Xian skill, and instantly disappeared from Kuei Ning's sight. Immediately, Kuei Ning looked at all this in disbelief. Devour Castle's Elder Pavilion. The 13 elders sat cross-legged around a secret room. An incomparably powerful aura enveloped every inch of space. Not to mention anyone, even a fly would not be able to escape from their aura lock. Indeed, as Kuei Ning said, no one would be able to take away the commander's seal under the eyes of these 13 elders. The mature and dignified city lord's wife walked in leisurely. Open the secret room, I want to check if the commander's seal exists. The city lord's wife said indifferently. Yes. The 13 elders said indifferently. Then, 4 of them stepped forward, took out 4 keys, and opened the door of the secret room in the middle. Rumble. The ground cracked open, this was the passage to the secret room. The entire secret room was only 4 to 5 square meters, completely embedded in the ground. The door of the secret room was made of gold steel, and was 4 to 5 chi thick. Then, the 4 elders followed the city lord's wife, and walked into the secret room together. Of course, Yang Dingtian also entered together. This stealth mystic skill was extremely heaven-defying. In the isolated space, no matter how powerful it would not be able to detect any aura of Yang Dingtian. After the city lord's wife carefully inspected the secret room, she nodded to the 4 elders, then turned and walked out. After the 4 elders confirmed that the commander's seal was hidden in the bloody black gold box, they also turned and walked out. And Yang Dingtian stayed in the secret room. After the city lord's wife and the 4 elders left, the thick door of the secret room closed again. Yang Dingtian did not appear, but quickly took the bloody black gold box with the commander's seal into his isolated space. At the same time, he quickly prepared an identical bloody black gold box, and put it in its original place. Yang Dingtian's speed was incomparably fast, and his movements were incomparably small. It was almost completed in less than 0.1 seconds, and the movement caused was definitely smaller than a mosquito. However, the monitoring of the 13 elders was incomparably powerful. Even so, the movement was smaller than a mosquito flying by, but it immediately alarmed the 5 elders. The 5 people's expressions changed, and they immediately stood up and checked every corner of the space. Of course, they could not find any movement. Then, they immediately opened the secret room and carefully checked the bloody black gold box. In the secret room, there was no movement, no life, and no energy aura. They were very confident that in such a small environment, even if a hair fell, they could lock onto it. And the bloody black gold box did not change at all. It's okay, we almost became frightened birds. The great elder laughed at himself, and then the 5 of them left the secret room. Of course, before they left, Yang Dingtian had already gone invisible. Did you get it? Kuei Ning asked nervously. Yang Dingtian nodded and directly took out the bloody black gold box. Then, Yang Dingtian condensed the mystic fire and slashed it. It easily opened the bloody black gold box. A commander's seal carved from an energy crystal lay there quietly, releasing a unique energy aura. City Lord Yang, leave immediately and wait for me on the surface of the sea. Kuei Ning said excitedly, I will go to the barracks now. At most an hour, I will lead the demon vulture army and appear in front of you. Okay. Yang Dingtian turned invisible and quickly left Splitting Earth City. On the surface of the sea, Yang Dingtian was still invisible, quietly floating on the sea. He waited quietly. Waiting for the overlord of the sky, waiting for the demon vulture army that was about to belong to him. Suddenly, the surrounding air trembled violently, and the entire sea shook violently. Then, the sky suddenly darkened. Whoosh 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 whoosh, countless sounds of air whistling. Countless sounds of air exploding. Densely packed, the demon vulture army. Like thousands of fighter jets, they instantly streaked across the sky. Covering the sky and covering the sun, the world was dark. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian suddenly appeared. Kuei Ning suddenly waved his hand, and the flying demon vulture army instantly froze. In the air, they formed an incomparably sharp formation, as if they were frozen in an instant. This was the overlord of the sky, flying like the wind and still like a mountain. City Lord Yang Dingtian, the first army of the Splitting Earth City Demon Vulture Army requests to join the Righteous Alliance Army, please accept. Kuei Ning shouted loudly, and then raised a golden token sword high above his head. Welcome to the Righteous Army, welcome to the Tiando League Alliance Army. Yang Dingtian raised the golden token sword high and said loudly, I order, the first army of the Demon Vulture Army, target Cloud Sky City, advance at full speed. Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in an instant, 1,000 Demon Vulture Army, like lightning, streaked across the sky, tearing through the air, whistling towards the northwest direction of Cloud Sky City. This overlord of the sky would cause a devastating blow to the evil army of the Temple of Annihilation in the war. Chapter 469. Kuei Ning, do you think our 1,000 over Demon Vulture cavalry can be used as a surprise force to reach Cloud Sky City without anyone knowing? Yang Dingtian, from the beginning to the end, our enemies can't discover us until we deal a fatal blow to them on the battlefield? Kuei Ning said, City Lord Yang, there are a few conditions that need to be met. First, when we moved out on a large scale, the people of Fisher City saw us. I believe that there must be spies from evil ways in Fisher City. Therefore, we need to completely seal off Fisher City. Not a single person, bird, or ship can leave. Yang Dingtian nodded. This was very, very difficult to do. After all, the army they saw just now was in the tens of thousands. But don't worry about this. If it was in other places, it would be impossible to completely seal off the news. But in Fisher City, it's easy. Kuei Ning said, because Fisher City is more than 5,000 miles away from the nearest continent. It's completely isolated. Therefore, if you want to send news to the northwest continent, there are only 3 ways. Take a ship out to sea, send a message by bird, or leave on a flying mount. But 3 days ago, Fisher City had already ordered that not a single bird or ship can leave South Sea Yingzhou. We have the world's fastest and most powerful Demon Vulture Army. It can be said that no bird or ship can escape. Then, Kuei Ning said, if you're still worried, I can immediately send people back and ask them to double the patrols. Yang Dingtian was about to nod, but Kuei Ning smiled and said, no need, they've already caught up. Yang Dingtian turned around and saw that they had indeed caught up. More than 1,000 demon vultures were chasing at full speed. Obviously, Kuei Ning and Yang Dingtian's theft of the commander's seal had been exposed. Fisher City sent people to block them to prevent Kuei Ning's demon vulture army from going north. City Lord Yang, what should we do? Kuei Ning said, we'll go full speed ahead and ignore them. Yang Dingtian, I don't know your army well. Everything is up to you. Kuei Ning nodded and waved his hand. Stop. Whoosh. Even though Yang Dingtian had already seen it once, he still couldn't help but feel shocked. After flying for 700 to 800 kilometers, Kuei Ning gave the order, and the army of 1,000 demon eagles instantly stopped, not dashing forward at all. This scene was truly breathtaking. The fighter jets of the Earth era were far from being able to achieve this. It was as if inertia did not exist on the bodies of the demon vulture army. Stop! With a crisp shout, the 1,000 demon vulture legion that was chasing behind him stopped instantly, as if they were frozen in the air. The two demon vulture legions were a few hundred meters apart, silently facing each other. A knight in purple armor slowly flew over. His deep eyes looked coldly at Yang Dingtian, and then he said to Kuei Ning, Commander Kuei Ning of the 1st Demon Vulture Legion, colluded with outsiders, stole the commander's seal, and secretly took away the Demon Vulture Legion. How should he be punished? Kuei Ning bowed and said, Greetings, Grand Commander. This person was actually the Grand Commander of the entire Demon Vulture army. As the young master, Kuei Ning was only the commander of the 1st Legion. Moreover, she was actually a woman. Listening to her voice, she seemed to be a mature and cold woman. Come, arrest Kuei Ning immediately. The female commander said. Yang Dingtian was about to step forward, but Kuei Ning gently made a gesture to stop him. Then, Kuei Ning suddenly pulled out his sword and placed it on his neck, and said fervently, Aunt, if you don't let Kuei Ning fight to the death with evil ways, what's the point of me staying in this broken body? I'll die in front of you. Are you threatening me? The female commander said. I dare not. Kuei Ning said. The female commander looked at all the demon vulture knights in front of her and said, All of you, come back with me. However, no one moved. All of you, are you going to disobey orders? The female commander shouted coldly. The entire sky was still silent. The female commander came in front of Kuei Ning and said coldly, How can you take away the entire 1st Legion? Or rather, how can you only take the 1st Legion? Kuei Ning was stunned. 1st Legion, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 teams, follow me back to the earth-splitting city. 2nd Legion, 1, 3, 5 teams. 3rd Legion, 7, 9 teams, reinforce the Northern Expeditionary Army. The female commander ordered crisply, and then said to Kuei Ning unhappily, What are you doing as a young master? Our Demon Vulture Legion hasn't had a real battle for decades. It's not easy to have a chance to fight on the battlefield, but you only brought the 1st Legion and didn't think of letting the entire army participate in the real battle. Immediately, Yang Dingtian was startled. This female commander was actually putting on a show. Thank you, Aunt. Kuei Ning was immediately overjoyed and said, 1st Legion, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 teams, all step out and obey orders, return to the earth-splitting city. Immediately, there was a cry in the air. They went north to participate in the battle in high spirits, who knew that they were actually intercepted and then pulled back to the earth-splitting city. Although unwilling, all the Demon Vulture Legion still obeyed the order at the first moment. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the following performance made Yang Dingtian dumbfounded again. Almost only a few seconds. The 5 teams of Demon Vulture Cavalry that Yang Dingtian stretched out his hand quickly left the team and flew behind the female commander. And the 5 teams of Demon Vulture Cavalry opposite flew over at the same time, filling up the team formation behind Yang Dingtian. 2 teams of 500 Demon Vulture Cavalry, instantly intertwined in the air, like lightning. One side's gaze was fiery and excited. The other side's gaze was like wanting to kill people. Very soon, the 2 sides finished exchanging troops. The Demon Vulture Legion that Yang Dingtian brought to Cloud Heaven City was still 1,000 people, but half of them were from the 2nd and 3rd Legions. Aunt, if you go back like this, will you be punished? Kuei Ning could not help but ask. That female commander said indifferently, the bottom line that the Elders Guild gave me is to bring half of the First Legion back to the Earth-splitting city. I've already done it, what punishment is there? Immediately, Yang Dingtian was stunned, Kuei Ning was also stunned. This frosty woman actually also had this kind of cold humor. That's right, she brought the 500 people of the First Legion back. But, she gave the 500 people of the Second and Third Legions to Yang Dingtian. This should be considered as a naked provocation to the Elders Guild. Yang Dingtian stepped forward, bowing deeply towards her. That female commander waved her hand, immediately a huge and handsome demon vulture flew up. She faced Yang Dingtian, this is a gift from my earth-splitting city, why don't you accept it? Yang Dingtian's face immediately turned red, and said, I'm ashamed. Then, he left Kuei Ning's mount and landed on his own demon vulture. That female commander took off her helmet, revealing a mature and beautiful face, bowing towards Yang Dingtian and said, Earth-splitting city's demon vulture legion's great commander Kuei Qing, congratulates city lord Yang Dingtian in advance to victory and kill all Yama. Yang Dingtian did not have any mental preparation and was instantly pierced by her beautiful face, especially by her beautiful eyes and red lips. He was stunned for a moment, then bowed and said, Thank you, Miss Kuei Qing. Kuei Qing looked at her nephew, Kuei Ning, and a trace of love appeared in her eyes, but her face became sterner, and she said, Kid, when you go to Cloud Heaven City, don't embarrass my Kuei family. Yes. Kuei Ning said loudly, and then his eyes turned hot, and, after I leave, I'll leave Earth-splitting city to you, you have to be careful. I don't need you to say that, Kuei Qing said coldly. Oh right, Aunt, we want to be a surprise army, so I hope you can seal off all information about us going north, and not let the evil ways know that our Demon Vulture Legion has entered Cloud Heaven City, that will give them a fatal blow, Kuei Ning said. Kuei Qing said with disdain, when you think of this, the information will have already flown a few hundred miles away. I've already sealed off Earth-splitting city and killed dozens of people. Alright, you can go now. Yes. Kuei Ning said. Yang Dingtian nodded at her again. Kuei Qing returned the greeting, and then put on her helmet again, hiding her beautiful and cold face in the helmet. Yang Dingtian led a new 1,000 Demon Vulture Legion, and continued to fly north. Kuei Ning, your aunt is very impressive, Yang Dingtian said. Of course. Kuei Ning said, my father is powerful, but sometimes he's too stubborn, and he doesn't like politics, so most of the affairs in Earth-splitting city are taken care of by my aunt. Yang Dingtian said, what's the highest altitude that the Demon Vulture Legion can fly to? 3,500 feet. Kuei Ning said. Instantly, Yang Dingtian was speechless. This was really not inferior to the modern fighter jets on Earth. Alright, then we'll go north in a straight line, and while it's night, we'll take a detour to the land of chaos, then enter Cloud Heaven City in the west, Yang Dingtian said, this way, we can enter without anyone knowing. Yes. Kuei Ning said. However, the only trouble is on the surface of the sea. Yang Dingtian said, from here to the land of chaos, it's a full 10,000 miles. We'll definitely encounter ships, and they might be the fleet of the Middle State Expeditionary Army. Even if we're a few thousand feet in the air, we'll still be discovered. Don't worry, we won't be discovered, Kuei Ning said. Yang Dingtian was suddenly shocked and puzzled. Of course, ordinary ships couldn't discover flying objects above 10,000 meters, but the Middle State Expeditionary Army fleet would definitely discover them. But Kuei Ning said that they wouldn't be discovered, so he must have his reasons. The 1,000 Demon Vulture Legion continued to fly north quickly. Suddenly, an intense light bird flew in front of them. This was released by the Demon Vulture Legion, which was equivalent to the Army's scout. This intense light bird was a kind of half-energy creature. Its flying speed was faster than the Demon Vulture, but its flying time was relatively short. Every once in a while, it had to return to the Demon Vulture to recover its energy. The intense light bird flapped its wings in front of Kuei Ning, sending a certain signal. Kuei Ning said, City Lord Yang, 300 miles ahead, there's a large fleet. It should be the Middle State Expeditionary Army. We have to hide from their sight immediately, is there a way? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes. Kuei Ning said. Then, he suddenly ordered, Demon Vulture Legion Expeditionary Army, dive. Following Kuei Ning's order. Whoosh 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 whoosh, suddenly, the 1,000 Demon Vulture Cavalry, like arrows, plunged into the sea. Their speed was extremely fast. Pa 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 pa. Yang Dingtian even heard the sound of sonic booms. The diving speed of the demon vulture was so terrifying. Whoosh 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 whoosh, in Yang Dingtian's incomparably stunned eyes, these 1,000 demon vultures all plunged into the sea like lightning. And like the best divers, such a huge body, as straight as the water, only raised a small wave. Then, this demon vulture legion actually dived dozens of meters into the water, moving quickly in the sea. Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. This demon vulture legion was too heaven-defying. Not only could they go to the sky, but they could also go to the sea. Their speed in the air was extremely fast. And their speed in the sea was even faster than ordinary fast boats. Their streamlined bodies like swords made their speed at the bottom of the sea so amazing. In this way, 1,000 demon vulture cavalry, after diving for hundreds of miles in the water, until they were out of the sight of the Zhongzhou fleet, then they rose into the air. Like a fighter jet, they flew thousands of meters high in the sky. Yang Dingtian knew that the demon vulture legion was powerful, but he really didn't expect it to be so powerful. This kind of demon beast was actually an amphibious creature. And the most exaggerated thing was that while flying at the bottom of the sea, they also ate their own lunch. While diving quickly, they hunted the sea creatures to fill their stomachs. In this way, this demon vulture legion rested 3 times in the sea and flew for more than 10 hours. When it was dark, they officially entered the land of chaos. Then, without stopping, taking advantage of the night, they flew thousands of meters high in the sky and quickly flew toward Cloud Sky City. In just more than 2 hours, they had already reached the sky above Cloud Sky City. However, Yang Dingtian didn't know whether to be happy or worried. This was because when 1,000 demon vulture legion flew over Cloud Sky City, none of the patrolling winged cavalry of Cloud Sky City discovered them. Yang Dingtian descended from the demon vulture. When he landed 2,000 meters in the air, the patrolling winged cavalry of Cloud Sky City discovered Yang Dingtian and immediately surrounded him. When they saw that it was Yang Dingtian, they were immediately excited and bowed down in the air. Yang Dingtian ordered, all the patrolling winged cavalry within 200 miles of Cloud Sky City's airspace, withdraw. The leader of the patrolling cavalry was slightly stunned and then shouted, yes. Yang Dingtian continued to order all the soldiers, scouts, and spies in Cloud Sky Mountain, all the fortresses, and all the caves to withdraw. The patrolling cavalry was even more puzzled, but still shouted, yes. Yang Dingtian handed the order to the leader of the patrolling cavalry. Immediately, the leader of the cavalry quickly accepted the order and went to convey Yang Dingtian's order. About half an hour after the leader of the patrolling cavalry left, a familiar voice came quickly. It was Song Chunhua. At this moment, Yang Dingtian even felt that she was fragile and unable to bear the burden. This had never happened before, because Song Chunhua had always been like a mountain, fearless in the face of danger, not panicking in the face of danger. Sect leader. When Song Chunhua saw Yang Dingtian, her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. Then, she desperately suppressed her excitement and said, "You're finally back. Did things go well?" "Very well," Yang Dingtian said. "That's good." Song Chunhua let out a long sigh of relief and said, "After Qin Huaiyu saw your order, he already went to clear the entire Cloud Sky Mountain." Although she was very curious, Song Chunhua didn't ask why the entire Cloud Sky Mountain was cleared. Come, I'll take you to see someone in a team, Yang Dingtian said. Then, he suddenly flew up into the sky, and Song Chunhua followed closely behind. They flew up to a height of 5,000 meters. Suddenly, Song Chunhua's body shook. 1,000 incomparably huge demon vultures neatly lined up in the sky. They were almost motionless and didn't even make any sound. Although there were only 1,000 of them, they covered dozens of miles in the sky. Their momentum was greater than that of an army with thousands of men and horses. This is the young master of Earth-splitting city, Kuei Ning. Yang Dingtian introduced each other. This is World Society's Song Chunhua. Kuei Ning bowed and said, I'm very honored to be able to fight side by side with young Master Song. Song Chunhua's eyes were blazing, but she only said one sentence, welcome to the team. 4 hours later, the entire Cloud Sky Mountain was cleared. Then, under Kuei Ning's command, more than 1,000 demon vulture cavalry silently swooped down and quickly hid in the various caves of Cloud Sky Mountain. Throughout the entire process, not to mention the enemies outside, even the people of Cloud Sky City didn't feel anything. They only felt that there was a sudden gust of wind. After these 1,000 demon vultures entered the caves of Cloud Sky Mountain, they had to undergo a long period of recuperation. This was because they had flown more than 10,000 miles. Although they had rested in the sea 3 times, flying more than 10,000 miles in 20 hours was an extremely shocking number. It had almost reached their limit. In fact, Yang Dingtian already found it hard to understand. Although the demon vultures had huge bodies, they didn't have enough energy to support them to fly more than 10,000 miles. Ordinary flying mounts could at most fly 3,000 to 4,000 miles. Any further and they would have to keep changing mounts. However, after the demon vultures entered the caves, the cavalry took out purple-red crystals and began to feed the demon vultures. Yang Dingtian understood where the demon vultures' astonishing energy came from. Yang Dingtian said to Kuei Ning, I'm going back to Cloud Sky City. Do you want to come with me to meet future comrades? Kuei Ning said, tomorrow. In the next few hours, we have to be with our demon vultures. They're really tired today. Have a good rest. Yang Dingtian said, everything that the brothers need will be sent over immediately. City Lord Yang, go ahead. There should be a lot of things waiting for you to deal with. Kuei Ning said, and to keep it a secret, I don't want to appear. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. At this time, the main hall of Cloud Sky City was brightly lit. However, the crowds and patrolling troops in Cloud Sky City were not as good as before. Because the war was coming, the army had to seize all the time to rest. Once the war started, no one knew how long it would take. They had to wait until the war was over before they could have time to rest. Yang Dingtian changed into a full-body armor and walked into the main hall of Cloud Sky City. The city lord has arrived. The door of the main hall opened. 2 rows of guards at the door raised their swords and saluted. During the war, anyone who wore armor could forego kneeling. Yang Dingtian walked into the main hall. Inside, all the important people were there. All the miscellaneous things in the main hall had been cleared and placed on a very large table. On the table, a huge sand table was made out of sand, stones, and so on. It was completely proportional, simulating the 1,000 miles of territory of Cloud Sky City. On the map, every line of defense, every fortress, and every army were clearly marked. Greetings, City Lord. When they saw Yang Dingtian enter, although everyone was extremely excited, they still only bowed and saluted. As the bad news came one after another, Yang Dingtian still did not return. All the higher-ups present were about to break down, including Song Chunhua. However, in front of all the troops and all the disciples of Cloud Sky City, Song Chunhua and the others were always full of fighting spirit, filled with the confidence to win. However, day after day, Yang Dingtian still did not come. They were really about to break down. It was as if the dark clouds in the sky were about to crush the entire Cloud Sky City in an instant. At this moment, the moment Yang Dingtian walked in. In an instant, it was as if the dark clouds had dispersed and the sky was high and the clouds were light. Some people even had the urge to burst into tears. However, all the excitement only turned into a faint and trembling voice, "Greetings, City Lord. You all continue." Yang Dingtian said. "Yes." Shimen Lai said. Then, he pointed to the north of Cloud Sky City and said, "The Northern Army of the Punitive Army, which is also the Army of World Society, did not take a detour around the land bridge this time. Instead, they directly crossed the sea and came south to attack from behind Cloud Sky City." As everyone knew, there was a shallow strait between the northwest continent and the north. However, generally speaking, no one would cross the sea because the sea water was poisonous and the sea situation here was very complicated. However, this time, Song Shao actually chose to cross the sea. It was obvious that he was eager for a big battle. So far, nearly half of the World Society Army has crossed the sea. Nearly 100,000 troops have already established a defensive line around the coastline. In about 5 days, the remaining army will all cross the sea and come south to attack from behind Cloud Sky City. Shimen Lai said, "From the coast to Cloud Sky City is 530 miles, but the terrain is extremely complicated. I believe that the marching speed of the World Society Army, other than the Demon Dragon Army, won't be too fast." Then, Shimen Lai pointed to the west and said, "The Western Army of the Punitive Army, which is the joint army of Northwest Chin City and White Cloud City, is now about 1,800 miles away from Cloud Sky City. However, there is a deep ravine in the middle. Currently, the engineers of Chin City are desperately building the suspension bridge. Moreover, Chin City has deployed more than 1,000 winged cavalry warriors to protect the army building the suspension bridge." Then, Shimen Lai pointed to the east and said, "The Eastern Army of the Punitive Army is the most complicated. Currently, the army of more than 100,000 troops, led by the Divine Weapons Villa, is only 600 miles away from Cloud Sky City. However, on the southwest coastline, the Expeditionary Army of Zhongzhou is still continuously landing. Therefore, the army of the Divine Weapons Villa has started to camp 600 miles east of Cloud Sky City and is no longer advancing." Finally, Shimen Lai pointed to the south and said, "The Southern Army of the Punitive Army is made up of 3 parts. The first is the Barbarian Mercenary Army in the Sunset Mountains. The second is the Sky Phoenix Pavilion Army and the third is the Ning Clan of the South Sea. Currently, the army of the Sky Phoenix Pavilion has already landed on the south coast. The Barbarian Army has already walked down the Sunset Mountains and gathered on the plains 500 miles away from Cloud Sky City. However, most of the Barbarian Army is made up of infantrymen and only a small number of cavalrymen. Therefore, it should take them at least 5 days to reach the first line of defense of Cloud Sky City." Qin Huayu said, "In other words, the 4 armies of the Punitive Army will only gather at the first line of defense of Cloud Sky City after at least 5 days. Madam Shimen suddenly asked, "How many troops do the enemy have in total?" "It should be close to 1 million, Shimen Lai said. "According to our current information, it should be close to 1 million. Suddenly, everyone present gasped in surprise. Although they had already expected it, they still couldn't help but tremble when they heard the number of over 1 million. "It's not just 1 million, Yang Dingtian said. "It should be about 1.5 million or even more. This is because the number of the Expeditionary Army of Zhongzhou has already exceeded 400,000, and it's still increasing." In an instant, the lights in the hall trembled, and everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. "Commander Shimen, is our secret weapon enough to destroy 1.5 million soldiers?" Song Chunhua asked. "Not enough," Shimen Lai said. "If we allow the enemy's million-strong army to set up a formation in front of Cloud Sky City, our soldiers will definitely be defeated. No matter how brave our soldiers are, they will collapse instantly." Everyone nodded. "That's right. What kind of scene was 1.5 million soldiers?" It could be said that no one present had ever seen such a scene before. Yang Dingtian had never seen such a scene before either. Even in the movies, he had never seen such a scene before. In the Battle of Gondor in The Lord of the Rings, the orc army only had 200,000 soldiers, but it was already enough to cover the ground and cover the sky. 5 million soldiers could almost cover a few hundred miles of land. By then, even if it was flooded, it would be enough to drown Cloud Sky City. No matter how high the morale of any army was, when they saw the formation of 5 million soldiers, they would collapse. Instantly, everyone looked at Yang Dingtian. To be honest, Song Chunhua and Qin Huaiyu had already rehearsed this battle on the sand table countless times. However, all the results were without exception, and there was almost no hope of winning. Yang Dingtian looked at everyone and said slowly, "The probability of us winning this battle is more than 80%. When these words came out, everyone was shocked and looked at Yang Dingtian in disbelief. Yang Dingtian continued, "Commander Shiman, is our secret weapon enough to destroy 400,000 enemies? 400,000? Enough." Shiman Lai said. "Then it's enough." Yang Dingtian said, "On the day of the final battle, what we really have to face is only the enemy's southern army. That is 400,000 barbarian tribe mercenaries and 50,000 Sky Phoenix Pavilion and South Sea Ning clan allied forces. We can make it so that the remaining 1 million soldiers won't be able to arrive and join forces." Then, Yang Dingtian smiled and said, "I believe that they will be very happy to see this." Then, Yang Dingtian ordered, "Let's not sit here and wait for the enemy to arrive. Song Chunhua, order 2,000 Demon Dragon Army soldiers to follow me and attack the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa's Eastern Army. They are too close to us, so we have to warn them." "Yes," Song Chunhua said. More than 2 hours later, the 2,000 overlords of the land, the Demon Dragon Army, were like black ghosts. Under the leadership of Yang Dingtian, they attacked the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa's Eastern Army at lightning speed. The enemy hadn't started the battle, but Yang Dingtian took the initiative to attack. He wanted to give them a big surprise and a big shock. If he didn't kill at least 10,000 people, he wouldn't be able to raise their morale, and he wouldn't be able to scare these impatient capitulators. Chapter 470. Yang Dingtian wasn't good at military affairs. He wasn't as good as Song Chunhua, Shiman Lai, and Song Chunhua. Therefore, even though he was the person with the highest authority, he never interfered with the deployment or command of the army. However, he directly designated the highest strategic deployment. That was to attack 3 at once. Attacking 3 at once meant attacking the Eastern Legion led by the Divine Weapons Manor, the Western Legion led by Qin City, and the Northern Legion led by the World Society. Letting one at once meant allowing the Southern Legion of the Subjugation Army to advance north. In the end, before the 3 legions arrived, the Southern Legion would have already reached the city. Once this situation was formed, it meant that Yang Dingtian would have to face more than 400,000 people instead of 1 million. To be precise, there were 450,000 people and 400,000 barbarian mercenaries. 30,000 from Sky Phoenix Pavilion and 20,000 from South Sea Ning clan. Against more than 1 million people, no matter how capable Yang Dingtian was, he wouldn't be able to win. This was because more than 1 million people would come from all directions and flood Cloud Sky City. Even if Cloud Sky City didn't retaliate, they would definitely win if they kept charging forward. However, against more than 400,000 people, especially the barbarian mercenaries, most of whom were heavily armored infantry, their movements were relatively slow. Yang Dingtian, who had secret weapons, the Demon Dragon Legion, and the Demon Vulture Legion, had a high chance of winning. The most crucial battle was the mysterious and terrifying Blood Eye Army of the Ning clan of the South Sea. However, when the Blood Pupil Legion came out, it would be the final battle. Both sides would have to use their trump cards. Yang Dingtian's trump card was undoubtedly the resurrected Dongfang Minmi. Therefore, this battle could be won. However, the key was to successfully complete Yang Dingtian's strategy of attacking 3 at once. Tonight was the first step of the three-way strategy. They could only succeed and not fail. This demon dragon mount had a huge body, but it was terrifying. When it galloped, it had 2 states. In one state, the sound was earth-shattering. There were only a few thousand soldiers, but even the ground was trembling as if there were 100,000 soldiers sweeping across. On the battlefield, it could make people tremble in fear. In the other state, there was no sound at all. It was really soundless. It was like a cheetah running like a cat. There was really no sound at all. When the 2,000 demon dragons ran, there was only the sound of air being torn apart. Even when they ran on the stone floor, there was no sound. Yang Dingtian had asked Song Chunhua about this before. Chunhua said that when you want to intimidate the enemy, you have to use the sole of your foot to hit the ground. The center of the mystic dragon's foot was as hard as iron. If a few thousand kilograms of weight were to hit it, the entire ground would shake. However, when it was about to launch a surprise attack, the mystic dragon would curl its toes and let its 5 claws touch the ground. Furthermore, it wouldn't smash the ground directly, but would claw the ground and run. In terms of speed, the latter was still slightly faster. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was amazed. 2,000 members of the Devil Dragon Army charged out of Cloud Heaven City like black lightning. At this moment, the area within 200 miles of Cloud Sky City had become an incomparably huge military base. Yang Dingtian was just casually looking at it, but after a glance, he was completely stunned. Was this still Cloud Sky City? Yang Dingtian almost couldn't recognize him. These flat lands? What about these rivers? What about these hills? Within 200 miles of Cloud Sky City, there were new buildings everywhere. Countless fortresses. That's right, countless. It was densely packed and there were fortresses everywhere. It was densely packed and there were tents everywhere. There were also simple wooden houses. Because of the scorched earth strategy, everyone in Cloud Sky City had gathered within 200 miles of Cloud Sky City. At this moment, there were already more than 1 million people living within these 200 miles. Tang Buizhao, Song Lihua, and Mu Lianqing had executed the scorched earth strategy to the extreme. Within the 1,000 miles of Cloud Sky City's territory, there was almost no one left. As for the 1 million people living within the 200 miles of Cloud Sky City, other than the elderly and the young, all of them worked together. They worked day and night to participate in the construction. Therefore, in just a few short days, the entire Cloud Sky City had undergone drastic changes. Is there enough food and meat? Yang Dingtian asked. It's enough for more than half a year. Song Chunhua said, originally, Cloud Sky City had saved up a lot of food. In addition to the scorched earth strategy, all the citizens brought all the food and livestock into Cloud Sky City. In addition, Madame Qin Mengli had transported over a few thousand carts of food. Therefore, the food stored in Cloud Sky City is enough for us to eat for half a year. That's good. Yang Dingtian said. The troops continued to advance. At this moment, most of the surrounding people had already entered Dreamland. However, there were still at least 200,000 to 300,000 people who were making the final adjustments to the defensive line. Therefore, the 200 miles of Cloud Sky City was still densely packed with people. Seeing the Devil Dragon Army in the dark night, the people who were working were instantly excited. They looked at the army with admiration and envy. Recently, the enemies had never stopped their small-scale harassment, especially the northwest Qin city. In order to take revenge on the Autumn Water Sword sect, they had crossed the border many times to take revenge. The smallest number was a few hundred people, while the largest number was tens of thousands. However, every time, they were defeated and chased away by the Devil Dragon Army. Therefore, the Devil Dragon Army had become Cloud Sky City's greatest pride and support. The Devil Dragon Army was extremely fast. Soon, They were about to leave the 200 miles of Cloud Sky City's absolute territory. Suddenly, there was an extremely huge object in front of them. The brightly lit construction site gave Yang Dingtian a shock. Yang Dingtian instinctively sucked in a breath of cold air. City wall, a brand new city wall. A huge city wall that was more than 100 miles wide completely protected the entire Great Cloud Sky City. A month ago, this city wall didn't exist. In just a short month, this huge city wall had actually been erected. Even during the Earth era, Yang Dingtian had never seen such a crazy miracle. The huge city wall that was more than 100 miles wide directly spanned between two mountains. It completely protected the 200 miles of Great Cloud Sky City behind it. Moreover, this wasn't a crude and primitive city wall. It was a formal and solid city wall. First, a thick layer of soil was used to build the huge wall. Then, a special energy liquid was mixed in, causing the soil to instantly solidify and become hard. Then, an intense fire was used to roast the soil. Suddenly, the soil wall became as hard as porcelain and as tough as stone. That wasn't all. On the outer layer of the city wall, a thick layer of stone was placed. Just now, Yang Dingtian saw that there were only 200,000 to 300,000 people in the territory. He thought that most of them were sleeping. It turned out that most of them were here. Hundreds of thousands of people, close to 1 million, were in the huge construction site that was as bright as day. They were doing the final construction of the huge city wall. Yang Dingtian's heart warmed and his eyes became hot. He couldn't help but have the urge to cry. He didn't think that the policies he had promulgated would have such a crazy effect on the people of Cloud Sky City. It was actually able to make over 1 million people work day and night almost crazily. Hundreds of thousands of people, like ants, surrounded the huge city wall that was more than 100 miles wide, doing the final consolidation. This scene made Yang Dingtian's heart tremble. That's right, he wasn't fighting alone, nor was he fighting with 100,000 people. There were more than 1 million enemies, and he also had more than 1 million enemies. These more than 1 million people, for the sake of their shared Cloud Sky City, for their future, for their fields, their lives, and their freedom, were frantically doing the final construction of the defensive line. The city wall that was more than 100 miles wide was 15 meters high and 5 meters thick on average. Every 100 meters, there was a strong fortress. That's right, it was a very, very strong fortress. Half of this fortress was underground, and the other half was above ground. It was divided into 2 levels. Each fortress had 4 large shooting holes and 10 small shooting holes. There were hundreds of such fortresses in the 100 miles wide city wall. Yang Dingtian looked at Song Chunhua in disbelief and muttered to himself, "I've never seen such a miracle." Song Chunhua said, "I've never seen it either." More than 1 million people participated in the construction of this huge city wall. Tang Buizhao, Song Lihua, and Uncle Mu sent out 50,000 soldiers to command this huge army. They divided this incomparably huge city wall into 100 sections. 8,000 people were in charge of each section. The remaining 200,000 people were in charge of digging the moat and using the excavated soil to build the city wall. Another 100,000 people were in charge of transporting the large stone strips. Then, Song Chunhua smiled and said, "Zhu Hongxue, Qin Huayu, and I have been using our mystic flames crazily these few days to blow up the huge rocks on both sides of the mountain." After the rocks were blown up, all the thousands of people with elite weapons had to use the fastest time to cut out the complete stone strips. The bloody black gold sword that you gave me was also used to cut the stone strips. Then, all the heavy cavalry and all the large mounts had to be used to transport the stone strips. Yang Dingtian had already seen it. It was a majestic troop. There were all kinds of large livestock, large mounts, and even some demonic beasts. They were all pulling a cart, and on the cart were neatly placed stone strips. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of carts. Of course, most of these carts were brought over by Qin Mengli from West Prefecture City. When she was desperately transporting the wealth from West Prefecture City to Cloud Sky City, these carts and beast carts came along with her. 1,000,000 people were sweating crazily on the 100 miles wide ground. They were frantically building their first line of defense, which was also the last and only line of defense. In any era on Earth, Yang Dingtian had never seen such a miracle. 1,000,000 people had built a 100 miles wide city wall in just a month. The city wall was armed to the teeth. In front of the city wall, there was no longer a flat ground. Instead, there was a moat that was 20 meters wide and tens of meters deep. The water that was drawn over wasn't ordinary water, but seawater. Moreover, it was poisonous water that was mixed with the Rapture River. The entire city wall had a total of 20 city gates. Each gate had a tunnel that was 30 meters deep. All the metal gates in Cloud Sky City had been transported here and merged into a thick and huge city gate. Yang Dingtian couldn't imagine how the 100 miles wide city wall had been built. Although there were more than 1,000,000 people, it was a huge problem to plan for such an astronomical number of people. At this moment, more than half of the city wall had been fully fortified. Tens of thousands of soldiers were fully armed on top of the city wall. Even a few days ago, most of the soldiers had already eaten, dressed, and slept on top of the city wall. There were only a few hundred winged cavalry warriors who were continuously monitoring the situation in the air and on the ground within a few hundred miles. More than 1,000 members of the Devil Dragon Army were constantly patrolling around the periphery of the city wall. Are there people interfering with the construction of the city wall? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes, many times. Song Chunhua said, there are forces from all sides. They have caused us great losses in the past. We had no choice but to station more than 2,000 members of the Devil Dragon Army outside to defend. We have already killed tens of thousands of enemies who came to attack and harass us. However, recently, they have stopped harassing us. It is as if they are waiting for a decisive battle. Whoosh! Like black lightning, Yang Dingtian led the 2,000 members of the Devil Dragon Army and rushed out of the city gate. Finally, he saw Song Lihua and Tang Buzhao in the distance. At this moment, he could see from the side how the huge city wall was built. The incomparably beautiful and charming Song Lihua had completely disappeared. At this moment, Song Lihua was wearing thick, rough, and wear-resistant clothes. Her face was black and her hair was gray. Everything was covered in dust. The beauty was gone. What appeared in front of Yang Dingtian was an extremely tired, excited, and skinny woman. Her entire face was sharp. Only her two blood-red eyes were surprisingly large. As for Tang Buzhao, he almost didn't look human. He was so thin that he looked like he would be blown away by a gust of wind. His face was even dirtier than Song Lihua's. His dirty hair was at least half white. Previously, when Yang Dingtian saw him, he still had a head of black hair. Although he looked wretched, he was still handsome. At this moment, he was neither human nor ghost. Similarly, there was also a team of over 2,000 secretaries under them that was neither human nor ghost. They were constantly shuttling, coordinating, writing, and calculating. Some of them were working while eating flatbread. These thousands of people had already left the office in Cloud Sky City. They were all working in the straw huts here. Day and night, they almost didn't sleep or rest. They were so busy that they didn't even know that Yang Dingtian had returned. When they heard that the enemy's million-strong army was coming, even Song Chunhua and Qin Huayu trembled. However, Song Lihua and Tang Buzhao didn't feel anything because they were so busy that they didn't feel anything. They were so busy that they were numb. On average, they slept less than 3 hours a day. They didn't know what fear was at all. Yang Dingtian clearly saw that after Song Lihua and Tang Buzhao accidentally saw Yang Dingtian, they lowered their heads and continued to work crazily as if they didn't see anything. Then, they realized that this person was Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian had returned. Therefore, they raised their heads again and looked at Yang Dingtian with slightly excited eyes. Then, they lowered their heads and continued to work. They didn't even have time to greet him. Or maybe it wasn't that they didn't have time to greet him, but that they didn't have the energy and strength. All their energy was used to maintain the work at hand. They couldn't spare any energy to do anything else. Yang Dingtian didn't disturb them. Instead, he led the Devil Dragon army and continued to rush towards the east. From today onwards, Cloud Sky City is no longer the castle on the mountain peak. Instead, it is the city 200 miles behind the Great City Wall. Yang Dingtian said word by word, "I will do my best so that everyone behind the city wall will be happy and safe." Then, Yang Dingtian reluctantly looked at the huge construction site and the huge city wall. At this moment, the corner of the city wall was still covered in mud. They were using a special energy liquid to solidify and harden it. Then, the proud son of heaven, Zhu Hongxue, was desperately releasing mystic fire to burn the city wall and carry out the final hardening. This was Yang Dingtian's line of defense. This was a line of defense that belonged to everyone. This great city wall was their first line of defense. It was also their last and only line of defense. The final battle in a few days would take place in front of this line of defense. Once the line of defense was broken, everything would be destroyed. There would be no more protection behind the city wall. Everything would turn into dust. For this miracle city wall that was built with the blood and sweat of more than 1 million people, Yang Dingtian would fight to the end and give up everything. The Divine Weapons Manor's Eastern Army was the closest to Cloud Sky City. It would only take 2 to 3 days to cover the distance of 500 miles at full speed. Sky Thunder City was a subsidiary force of the Divine Weapons Manor. It was also the northernmost city of the Divine Weapons Manor. The Sunset Mountain Range divided the entire northwest continent into 2 halves. And Sky Thunder City was built on the easternmost part of the Sunset Mountain Range. Sky Thunder City was previously used as a huge military fortress built by the Divine Weapons Manor to prevent the Northwest Qin City from expanding southward. Of course, even though the Sunset Mountain Range where Sky Thunder City was located was a remnant of the barbarian tribe, it was still considered the barbarian tribe's territory. In order to build a city here, the Divine Weapons Manor paid a huge price. They agreed to trade weapons and armor with the barbarian tribe in exchange for a few dozen miles of mountain range and the land at the foot of the mountain. This was the perfect place to build a castle. This was because the mountain range was close to Cloud Sky City and was extremely steep and rugged. The mountain range in the south had a gentle slope. Therefore, it was not difficult to build a castle. But once a castle was built, it was definitely easy to defend and hard to attack. This was because the steep cliff in the north was the most natural city wall. Other than the flying army, no other army could climb up. Similarly, in order to get a share of the Northwest Qin City's land, the Divine Weapons Manor spent more than 10 years to dig through the narrowest part of the Sunset Mountain Range and dug a tunnel. This tunnel was usually closed and heavily guarded. But once the Divine Weapons Manor needed it, they could open the tunnel at any time and let the army enter the Northwest Qin City continuously. Therefore, despite Shiman Wuya's great talent, he could only expand 1,000 miles and could not expand anymore. This was the reason. The west was blocked by a huge abyss and the powerful Northwest Qin City was in the west. The north was filled with rugged mountain ranges and poisonous straits. The south was blocked by the huge Sunset Mountain Range. If they wanted to go south, they had to either attack the barbarian tribe or break through Sky Thunder City. But no matter what, Cloud Sky City could not do it. There were nearly 1 million barbarians in the Sunset Mountain Range, and there was nothing to gain from conquering them. These barbarians were cruel and ruthless. No one wanted to provoke them. Sky Thunder City was a natural fortress. It was hundreds of miles long and had steep cliffs that were hundreds of meters high. It was a natural moat for any army. And to the west was a chaotic land that even ghosts did not want. As a result, the great and talented Shiman Wuya was trapped in this land of 1,000 miles. At this moment, the divine weapons manor's young master, Cho Yiming, led a 150,000 army and was stationed in Sky Thunder City. As long as they gave the order, the sealed tunnel would open and hundreds of thousands of soldiers could enter Cloud Sky City's territory continuously. As for Sky Thunder City, which was stationed on a cliff that was a few hundred meters high, they didn't have to worry about being attacked by any of Cloud Sky City's armies. This was because no army could climb up a few hundred meters of steep cliff. At this moment, in Sky Thunder City, the commander of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, Cho Yiming, was holding a banquet. Enjoying exquisite delicacies, expensive wine, and watching beauties sing and dance, it was like heaven on earth. "Elder Ning, are you serious?" Cho Yiming asked in surprise. "After conquering Cloud Sky City, Jiao Liao and Song Lihua will belong to me? This is what Master said." From the top of the Sky Thunder City, along the hillside, the densely packed barracks rushed down like lightning. They didn't need to do anything. They just lined up and rushed down directly. Each demon dragon weighed close to 10,000 kilograms. The speed of their rush from top to bottom was 400 to 500 miles. Such an aura was extremely shocking. The energy of the instant impact had completely surpassed the tanks of the Earth era. In an instant, everything in front of them was crushed, and smashed into pieces. Like a thunderbolt, the earth trembled. In just a few minutes, 2,000 demon dragon army soldiers swept from the top of the hill to the foot of the hill. The barracks of more than 10 miles were instantly destroyed. Yang Dingtian only wanted to launch a surprise attack. He only wanted to give a warning and intimidate. However, he didn't expect that the 200,000 soldiers of the Sky Thunder City were actually sleeping. Therefore, the surprise attack turned into a massacre. The heaven-defying demon dragon army turned tens of thousands of people into a pile of meat paste in an instant. This was the overlord of the land, the demon dragon army. At this moment, Cho Yiming, who was at the top of the Sky Thunder City, was completely stunned when he saw this hellish scene. In fact, Yang Dingtian was also stunned. He knew that the demon dragon army was heaven-defying, but he didn't expect it to be this heaven-defying. They couldn't resist at all. It was a completely one-sided massacre. How is this possible? How is this possible? Cho Yiming hissed, how can they climb up the cliff that is hundreds of feet high? They are obviously covered with soft jadeite. Could it be that they flew up? The eyes of the Ning clan's emissary were cold. He said coldly, why aren't you forming a counterattack? Otherwise, your people will all die. Cho Yiming suddenly woke up and shouted, Fire Crystal Crossbow Army, gather all of them. Shoot all these beasts to death. Song Chunhua frowned and said, City Lord, the demon dragon's armor can't block the fire crystal arrows. Let's end this quickly. Yang Dingtian said, disperse and rush up the Sky Thunder City. Kill and capture Cho Yiming on your own. Yes. Suddenly, the 2,000 soldiers of the demon dragon army quickly dodged and disappeared into the night, disappearing into the crowd. Every 3 demon dragon army soldiers formed a small team and rushed towards the densest part of the crowd, slaughtering crazily. Yang Dingtian hid in the demon dragon army and rushed towards Cho Yiming like a flash of lightning. When he got close, the Ning clan's emissary beside Cho Yiming felt a dangerous aura. His eyes instantly emitted green light and was about to attack. However, it was too late. Yang Dingtian's demon spirit demonic fire and Song Chunhua's phoenix heavenly fire. 2 demonic fires suddenly condensed and instantly blasted towards the Ning clan's emissary. Boom! In an instant, the Ning clan's emissary turned into ashes and shattered bones. Then, before Cho Yiming could react, Yang Dingtian grabbed his neck and directly held him in front of him. He said coldly, Young Lord Cho, you are captured. Chapter 471. After falling into Yang Dingtian's hands, he was first shocked. Then, he shouted, "Yang Dingtian, you can't kill me. You can't kill me." Yang Dingtian knew that Chou Yiming was a good-for-nothing. When he went to the Divine Weapons Manor with Dugu Fengwu pretending to be Third Lady Gongsun, he knew that Chou Yiming was a good-for-nothing. However, he didn't expect him to be so good-for-nothing. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, "Don't worry. How can I bear to kill you?" Yes, Chou Yiming was priceless now. How could Yang Dingtian bear to kill him? At this moment, the 2,000-strong Devil Dragon army was charging into the Divine Weapons Manor's army and fighting crazily. In the distance, the fire crystal crossbows of the Divine Weapons Manor were gathering on the two mountain peaks. There were also hundreds of flying cavalrymen. They flew into the air and raised their fire crystal crossbows. Although it was a one-sided massacre, the Divine Weapons Manor's army wasn't a motley crew. Under the command of their respective officers, they didn't launch an ineffective counterattack. Instead, they started to gather their strength. Many forces had their own trump card teams. The Divine Weapons Manor was no exception. The Divine Weapons Manor's army had good weapons and armor. What was even more famous was undoubtedly their fire crystal crossbows. Crystal crossbow bolts weren't rare. Basically, all factions had their own equipment. However, most of the crystal crossbows were usually very large. They were placed on the city walls for air defense. The so-called crystal crossbows were built with a crystal energy array on the giant crossbow. Then, they used the huge energy generated by this energy array to explode and push the crossbow arrow out. Therefore, the lethality of this huge crystal crossbow was very shocking. It could shoot up to 400 to 500 meters in the air. Once a flying mount was shot, it would be pierced through. The powerful Devil Dragon mount was no exception. Of course, Cloud Heaven City also had such huge crystal crossbows. However, there weren't many of them. It was troublesome to install and shoot. However, the Divine Weapons Villa, which manufactured weapons in that era, produced a trump card weapon, which was a small crystal crossbow. He was actually able to miniaturize the huge crystal energy formation, making the giant crossbow, which was more than 10 meters long, become only 2 feet wide. From over 10,000 caddies, it was reduced to just over 200 caddies. Even though a single soldier weighing over 200 pounds was still a huge problem. Therefore, only martial artists with high cultivation could raise and fire such a powerful crossbow. Therefore, there were only a few thousand people in the entire Divine Weapons Manor's Crystal Crossbow Corps. And this few thousand Crystal Crossbow army became the absolute trump card of the Divine Weapons Manor. This time, Chou Yiming had only brought over 1,000 Crystal Crossbow warriors. Furthermore, these 1,000 people were scattered to various high places in the Sky Thunder City. At this moment, he was loading his crossbow and preparing to shoot. If they were allowed to shoot, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even though it was only 100 kilograms of crystal crossbow, its lethality was still shocking. It could directly penetrate the thick armor of the Devil Dragon army. "Everyone, stop!" Yang Dingtian shouted. Then, he suddenly raised Chou Yiming high up and said, "Your young master is in my hands. If you don't want him to die, put down the crossbow." Immediately, the crystal crossbow archers on the high places paused. They didn't dare to shoot, but they still aimed closely. Yang Dingtian looked at these crystal crossbows and suddenly felt envious. If Yang Dingtian could get a batch of crystal crossbows and equip the Devil Dragon army, then when the cavalry fought, they would be truly invincible. Yang Dingtian and Song Chuanhua's eyes turned, and then they ordered, "Seize the crossbows." Immediately, the several hundred-meter-tall Devil Dragon knights climbed the wall like lightning and flew toward the high tower. On the tower, there were more than 100 crystal crossbowmen. "Stop, or I will immediately shoot." The crossbowman on the tower shouted sternly. "Your young master is with me. If you don't want him to die, don't move." Yang Dingtian shouted. Then, the several hundred-meter-tall devil dragon knights quickly shuttled toward the tower like black shadows. The highest order of the divine weapons mountain villa. We would rather lose our lives than lose the crystal crossbows. The leader of the crossbowmen on the tower shouted, "Shoot!" Then, they ignored Cho Yiming's life and directly ordered to shoot. Whoosh 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 whoosh, in an instant, hundreds of sharp arrows shot out like lightning. In the air, streaks of red light streaked across. They were extremely fast. Yang Dingtian had never seen such fast arrows. Not good. Yang Dingtian was shocked. He suddenly blasted out the mystic fire and shattered all the arrows. However, these arrows were too fast. In an instant, the dozen or so devil dragons at the front were instantly shot. The bloody black gold arrowheads directly pierced through the thick armor and drilled into the brain. In an instant, the devil dragons that weighed thousands of kilograms died and fell from a high place. Instantly, Yang Dingtian's heart twitched in pain. Every devil dragon was incomparably precious. They were all trump cards in his hands. The black of the demon dragon army was like a sharp knife. It directly pierced into the snow-white torrent of steel and instantly drowned the white. In the most direct and crazy collision. The heavy armored cavalry of the divine weapons manor were instantly smashed into pieces. Even if some of the armors were still intact, the knights inside would be instantly killed. These strong warhorses had their heads smashed in an instant. Then, they were trampled by the huge demon dragon army. Just like this, the black demon dragon army instantly drowned the snow-white heavy-armored cavalry at a speed of dozens of meters per minute. 15 minutes later. Under everyone's shocked gaze, the people on the left and right were trembling to the point of incontinence. More than 2,000 of the most elite heavy-armored cavalry were completely annihilated. The casualties of the demon dragon army were minimal. The demon dragon army used the most direct battle results to prove their position as the overlord of the continent. The demon dragon army was undoubtedly the king of cavalry. However, the heavy-armored cavalry of the divine weapons manor also used the most tragic and bravest method to prove their fearlessness and pride. After completely destroying the heavy-armored cavalry, the warriors of the demon dragon army directly jumped off their mounts, took off their helmets, and bowed deeply to the corpses of the heavy-armored cavalry. Although they were enemies, the demon dragon army still used their own methods to express their respect. At this moment, a heroic and solemn aura condensed in the air. The enmity between the two sides also gradually faded as the heavy-armored cavalry was destroyed and the demon dragon army bowed deeply. At this moment, Yang Dingtian had already cleared the tunnel. He saw the corpses of the heavy-armored cavalry all over the ground. Then, he saw a temporary silence between the two armies. The remaining 100,000 soldiers of the divine weapons manor just stood there quietly and didn't make any moves. Yang Dingtian jumped into the air and looked at the divine weapons manor army that covered the mountains. He shouted, "All of you are worthy of the pride of a soldier. However, this is not your battlefield. Your enemy is the evil ways, not me." Then, Yang Dingtian came to the back of the demon dragon army and shouted to the divine weapons manor army, "I hope that one day, I can fight alongside all of you. Goodbye. Everyone, retreat." Following Yang Dingtian's order, all the demon dragon knights quickly jumped onto their mounts. More than 1,000 demon dragon army soldiers entered the tunnel like lightning. They quickly rushed out of the Sunset Mountains and returned to Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua were the last to enter the tunnel. At this moment, the divine weapons manor army that covered the mountains and plains strangely didn't chase after them. Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua looked at each other and nodded. Boom boom boom, the two of them suddenly used mystic fire and bombarded the ceiling of the tunnel. Suddenly, countless boulders fell and the entire tunnel collapsed. The two of them bombarded the tunnel and retreated. Rumble, when the two of them exited the tunnel. The entire tunnel that was more than 1,000 meters long had completely collapsed and was completely blocked. At this moment, more than 1,000 demon dragon army soldiers were neatly lined up a few hundred meters in front of them. Yang Dingtian carried Chou Yiming and jumped onto the demon dragon. He shouted, "Brothers of the demon dragon army, you have completed this battle even more perfectly than I had imagined. Not because we killed tens of thousands of people, but because we have completely conquered their hearts. You are indeed the true kings of cavalry and the overlords of the land. Long live!" All the demon dragon knights shouted in unison. Their voices shook the sky. "Return to the city," Yang Dingtian ordered. Instantly, more than 1,800 demon dragon army soldiers returned to Cloud Sky City like lightning. The first step of Yang Dingtian's strategy was basically completed perfectly. The Divine Weapons Manor's Eastern Army and the hundreds of thousands of Central Province Expeditionary Army were destined not to arrive on time. The tunnel had already collapsed and Chou Yiming was in Yang Dingtian's hands. Chou Wanjie would know what to do. After returning to Cloud Sky City, they would begin the second step of the strategy. He pointed at the dark and thin woman with dirty hair and a dirty face and said, "Young Master Chou, this is the Song Lihua that you covet, the woman of my legend." Ah! Chou Yiming looked at the dark and thin woman in front of him. She was dressed in coarse cloth and her hair was dirty and messy. She didn't have the peerless beauty of Song Lihua. After looking for a while, Chou Yiming finally recognized that this was indeed Song Lihua. But, how did she become like this? It was worse than a fairy in the sky becoming a village girl. Chou Yiming couldn't hide the shocked expression on his face. His mouth opened so wide that it could swallow a duck egg. "Are you still coveting her?" Yang Dingtian asked. Chou Yiming instinctively trembled, and then suddenly shook his head. "Look at that person again." Yang Dingtian pointed at another person in the crowd. On the ground not far away, a group of cavalry was neatly sleeping on the ground. Everyone was tightly attached to their warhorses and directly slept on the dirty ground. Only one person was sitting. That person's hair was completely covered in dust. His whole body was like a clay figurine. Just like that, he sat on the dirt ground, looking at Song Lihua's back with a fiery gaze. Although Song Lihua had become even worse than a village girl, and she didn't even have time to clean her teeth these days. Her body was sweaty and smelly. But, in this man's eyes, Song Chunhua was more beautiful than ever, like a fairy in the sky. Every time it was his turn to rest, he would sit on the dirt ground like this, staring at her back in a daze. But, some people think that Song Lihua is more beautiful than ever. Yang Dingtian pointed at the mud-like villager and said, "This person is the Northwest Qin City's young master, Qin Huayu." Chou Yiming was shocked again. Although Qin Huayu wasn't very handsome, he was very elegant, noble and elegant. Compared to other Chou Yiming, he was much better. Moreover, his identity was much more noble than Chou Yiming's. In the past, he was Chou Yiming's most direct target of jealousy. But now, he was sitting on the dirt ground like an old farmer in a daze. Yang Dingtian took out a pill and directly stuffed it into Chou Yiming's mouth. Chou Yiming was shocked and said, What did you feed me?" "A poison. In this world, only I have the antidote." Yang Dingtian said, "You are a big shot, but we are too busy. We don't have time to entertain you properly. I won't bother you. As long as you don't leave Cloud Sky City, you can go anywhere you want and see anything you want. Look, that person is Zhu Hongxue, the one who is spitting fire at the dirt." Chou Yiming was stunned again. Zhu Hongxue was the target he looked up to. He was like a high mountain that he could only look up to. How noble, how elegant. Now, there was a belt tied around his waist and the color of his clothes couldn't be seen. A piece of cloth was wrapped around his hair and he was spitting fire at the city wall. Why is this happening? Just how noble were these people's identities? Why are they being ruined like this? Why is this happening? After the war ends, no matter if we win or lose, I will let you go back and give you the antidote. But during this time, you can't use any mystic chi. Once you use it, your sea of chi will feel like it is about to split open. It will be very painful. After saying that, Yang Dingtian lifted Chou Yiming up and said, "All right, I will bring you to see someone." "Who?" Chou Yiming said with a trembling voice. Yang Dingtian rode on the demonic dragon and flew towards the city. "Aren't you thinking about my wife, Qin Jiaojiao? I'll take you to see her now. You can stay with her until the end of the war." Chou Yiming was stunned and looked at Yang Dingtian in disbelief. There was actually such a good thing. Yang Dingtian rushed into Jiaojiao's small building in Cloud Sky City. At this moment, Jiaojiao was fully armed and was practicing swordsmanship with her maid and half-sister, Qin Susu. When she saw Yang Dingtian, Jiaojiao was ecstatic. She threw away her sword and was about to pounce on him. "Husband, I am practicing swordsmanship. When the war starts, I will definitely protect Bao Bao, Aoshuang, and everyone in our family," Jiaojiao said. "You little idiot, it's already amazing that you can protect yourself." But Yang Dingtian still coaxed her lovingly, "Good Jiaojiao, you are really amazing." "Bah, you must be calling me an idiot in your heart. Don't think I don't know." Jiaojiao pouted and then leaned on Yang Dingtian's arms. She looked at Chou Yiming and said, "Who is this trash? He looks so familiar." Instantly, Chou Yiming's self-esteem suffered a huge blow. Qin Jiaojiao and Qin Huayu went to the Divine Weapons Manor a few times, and every time, Chou Yiming would try his best to curry favor with them. Also, Qiu Wanjie dreamed of having a marriage alliance with Qin City, so he really hoped that Chou Yiming could pursue Qin Jiaojiao. Before Qin Jiaojiao married Yang Dingtian, her reputation wasn't good, and her personality wasn't good either. She was heartless, vicious, and merciless. She liked men to pursue her and then trample on them. Chou Yiming was once toyed with until he wanted to die. Chou Yiming felt that it was unforgettable, but he didn't expect that he would be asked, "Who is this trash? He looks so familiar." "This is the young lord of the Divine Weapons Manor, Chou Yiming." Yang Dingtian said, "Jiaojiao, I will give you a mission for these few days. Watch him every day. Wherever he wants to go, let him see it. Remember, his mystic chi is sealed. You can't hit him, understand?" Qin Jiaojiao's beautiful eyes instantly lit up, revealing a terrifying gaze. "Divine Weapons Manor's Chou Yiming, you are purposely going against my beloved husband? Good, good. Today, you are in my hands. I will definitely let you know how powerful I am." Chou Yiming's body trembled, and he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. He had a bad feeling. "All right, be good. I will leave this mission to you." "I am going to do something," Yang Dingtian said. "And, don't worry, husband." Qin Jiaojiao said excitedly, "I will definitely change him completely. Remember, you can't hit him, understand?" Yang Dingtian repeated worriedly. "Sect head, is this okay?" Song Chunhua asked. "I understand Chou Yiming. He is not a bad person, but he has a hedonistic aura. He can be changed." Yang Dingtian said, "Not only do we have to prepare for the war, but we also have to prepare for the war after. Make our friends more and more and our enemies less and less." Yang Dingtian was right. Chou Yiming was a typical hedonistic person. It was right to say that he was spineless and afraid of death, but sometimes, he was very straightforward. It was also possible to say that he was not a good person, but he was definitely not completely bad. "All right, call Qin Huayu and Shimen Lai over. Let's have a short summary meeting regarding the Devil Dragon Army," Yang Dingtian said. "Yes," Song Chunhua said. Then, she sent out a few messengers riding on the Devil Dragon Army to deliver the message. The attack on the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa in Sky Thunder City went very smoothly. The results were much better than expected. Yang Dingtian said, "We killed about 40,000 people from the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa and destroyed 2 groups of heavy cavalry. We destroyed the tunnel and captured the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa's young master, Cho Yiming. Therefore, the first step of the strategy was completed perfectly." Yang Dingtian picked up a flag and directly inserted it into the sand table where Sky Thunder City was. Those in charge of military affairs in Cloud Heaven City all sat around the sand table and had a short meeting. However, the Devil Dragon Army also suffered unprecedented losses. Yang Dingtian said, "I just received a report. In this operation, we lost a total of 130 Devil Dragon Army soldiers. Among them, 95 Devil Dragons died and 35 Devil Dragons were heavily injured. The Devil Dragon Army also suffered more than 40 casualties. The losses this time were greater than the total losses of all the previous military operations combined. Moreover, this was based on the fact that the enemy's Crystal Crossbow warriors gave up attacking. Otherwise, the Devil Dragon Army's casualties would be even greater. Therefore, the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa's Crystal Crossbow Army is the Devil Dragon Army's nemesis, especially the dense crystal crossbows and the crystal crossbow warriors flying in the air." Yang Dingtian said, "There is one more thing that everyone did not expect. Moreover, only 30% of the Devil Dragon Army's casualties were caused by the crystal crossbow warriors. The remaining 70% were caused by the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa's infantry." Suddenly, everyone exclaimed in disbelief. The Devil Dragon Army was so powerful, but 70% of their casualties were caused by infantry. Not cavalry, but infantry. In this ambush, when the Devil Dragon Army killed 40,000 enemies, there were almost no casualties. Later on, when they killed less than 5,000 enemies, there were almost 100 casualties. Yang Dingtian said, "Why is that?" "Chunhua, tell me." Song Chunhua said, "In the beginning, the enemy was not prepared at all. The Devil Dragon Army's rapid charge and rapid suppression caused huge casualties to the enemy. Moreover, the Devil Dragon Army did not suffer any casualties. However, later on, the Devil Dragon Army lost their advantage in speed. When they were entangled by the enemy's infantry, they began to suffer casualties." "That's right. The enemy's infantry panicked and did not have any organization. However, they still caused almost 100 casualties to our Devil Dragon Army, far more than the Crystal Crossbow warriors." Yang Dingtian said, "Therefore, in conclusion, the Devil Dragon Army must always be in the process of moving quickly. Only when they are moving quickly can the Devil Dragon Army be invincible. Once they stop and get entangled, even the enemy's heavy infantry can cause casualties to the Devil Dragon Army. The Devil Dragon Army is very precious. We cannot accept any more losses." Yang Dingtian said, "Therefore, when we use the Devil Dragon Army in battle in the future, we must pay attention to 2 points. First, it must be used in ambushes and harassing battles. It cannot be used in positional battles and cannot be entangled by the enemy. Second, after encountering a certain number of crystal crossbow warriors, the Devil Dragon Army must fight cautiously." "Yes." Everyone shouted. "Alright, next is the second point." Yang Dingtian said, "After the first step of fighting 3, releasing 1, we will immediately begin the second step of fighting 3, which is the World Guild in the north. How should we fight?" Suddenly, everyone fell into silence. The World Guild that was crossing the sea was very troublesome. Although the north of Cloud Sky City was filled with steep hills, unlike the south which was flat, there was no defense line. However, the north side of Yun Shao City did not have any defensive line. Once it was breached, it would be destroyed in an instant. Cloud Sky City had placed all of its defenses in the south. To be more precise, they placed all of it on the city walls that spanned over 100 miles. It was for the final battle with the southern army of the punitive army. The north of Cloud Sky City was very weak and empty. Yet, the World Guild chose to cross the dangerous Poison Strait to attack the weakest part of Cloud Sky City. There was another point. Song Lihua and Song Chunhua were both from the World Guild. More than 3,000 Devil Dragon warriors and 10,000 warriors were also from the World Guild. The only enemy of the World Guild was Song Minghua. Song Shao was extremely stubborn, but he was still the leader of the World Guild. Moreover, there were still 4,000 Devil Dragon army in the World Guild army crossing the sea. Song Shao seemed to have gone crazy. He actually sent out all of the reserve Devil Dragon army. All of the elite troops of the World Guild and the military power of the territory were sent out in full force as if they were going to fight Yang Dingtian to the death. Moreover, they chose the most vulnerable northern direction. It could be said that once the World Guild army crossed the sea and landed, Cloud Sky City would be in trouble. Without a defensive line, Yang Dingtian did not have enough power to resist the hundreds of thousands of troops of the World Guild. Moreover, the army of the World Guild was neither friend nor foe. They had no choice but to fight. It was very difficult to grasp this scale. For example, the World Society's remaining Devil Dragon army, you need to eliminate them. What would Yang Dingtian's Devil Dragon army think? Those people were once their brothers. If they really killed all of the World Guild's Devil Dragon army, Yang Dingtian's Devil Dragon army would be disloyal. However, if Yang Dingtian was merciful, the other party might not be merciful. Song Shao and Song Minghua would definitely not be merciful. They would definitely destroy Cloud Sky City. Sect Master, I'll bring my brothers and head north. Song Chunhua suddenly said, bring me some secret weapons and attack them halfway across the sea. We'll completely destroy them on the sea. Everyone was silent. Song Chunhua said, even though those people were my brothers and my subordinates. For the sake of justice, we can't care so much. Since they're helping the evildoer, they have to accept the result of destruction. Yang Dingtian remained silent. Song Chunhua said, Sect Master, we can't hesitate anymore. They already have tens of thousands of troops on land. Once more than 100,000 troops have landed, their Devil Dragon army will also start to land. When that time comes, it will be difficult to completely destroy them. The World Guild's logistics troops were the ones who landed on the sea. First of all, they weren't worth much. If Yang Dingtian attacked, it wouldn't be a pity if they all died. Moreover, if they landed first, they could set up a defensive line on the coast. Once the defensive line was completely set up, the elite troops would continue to land on the sea. As the trump card, the Devil Dragon army couldn't be allowed to cross the sea alone. They had to wait until there were enough elite troops on the south coast before letting the Devil Dragon army land. Of course, this also showed Song Zhao's conflicted heart. First of all, it was the mentality of a gambler. I understand. Song Chunhua said. Yang Dingtian said, alright, you can go back. I'm leaving. Then, Yang Dingtian was about to fly north. Suddenly, Song Chunhua went forward and hugged Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian, after this war, I don't just want to be your comrade. I want to be a woman for once. Yang Dingtian was shocked when he heard her words that he had never heard before. The entire mountain range of several hundred miles could be said to be extremely difficult to march through. Therefore, basically, no army would choose to attack Cloud Sky City from this direction, except for the Air Force. But he did not expect that the stubborn and narrow-minded Song Shao would choose to march in this direction. For this reason, he did not hesitate to take the risk of crossing the extended Poison Strait. His actions had indeed hit Yang Dingtian's weak spot. Although it would be extremely difficult for an army of a few 100,000 to cross this chaotic mountain range, Yang Dingtian couldn't just sit back and watch. He couldn't just sit back and relax. If his army of hundreds of thousands were to charge over, then everything would be over. All of Yang Dingtian's military forces had already been placed on the city walls. His back was extremely weak. Once the World Society army successfully crossed the sea and crossed the mountain range of several hundred li, Cloud Sky City would be completely destroyed in an instant. Poison Extension Strait. This was a strait that was 10,000 li long, spanning between the north and the northwest continent. The widest part was more than 1,000 li, and the narrowest part was only a few dozen li. Because the seawater here was all polluted by the Ecstasy River, there were no living creatures, and it was impossible to cross. Especially the sea area to the north of the Sky Maze City, it was completely a death zone. Even if one flew a few thousand meters high, they would still be poisoned to death. At the strait north of Cloud Sky City, although the poison in the Ecstasy River was already very weak, it was still a death zone. No one would choose to cross the sea here. Because once they fell into the water, they would still be poisoned. Therefore, whether they went north to the World Society or south to the World Society, they could only walk a few thousand li across the land bridge and take a few thousand li detour. Yang Dingtian's flying speed was very fast. In just an hour, he had already flown 500 li and reached the end of the mountain range. In front of him was the Poison Extension Strait. The seawater was suffused with a terrifying green color. A dazzling green color rose from the surface of the sea. The strait that stretched for 10,000 li was like a gorgeous and highly poisonous green ribbon that surrounded the entire northwest continent. The Ecstasy River was blood red and poisonous. However, after flowing into the sea, it reacted with some unknown composition in the seawater and turned into an even more bizarre green color. Looking from afar, the two sides of the Poison Extension Strait seemed to be dotted with countless stars. Above the strait, a long belt of fiery stars connected the two sides. Yang Dingtian flew quietly, getting closer and closer. The scene of the Poison Extension Strait became clearer and clearer. Even though he was mentally prepared, Yang Dingtian still couldn't help but gasp. What a grand scene, what a grand scene. The north side of the strait had already become an incomparably huge military camp. There were hundreds of thousands of soldiers, stretching for dozens of li, densely packed and dark. Countless tents were spread out on the ground of hundreds of square kilometers. Countless torches, looking from the sky, looked like the stars in the sky. Moreover, there was an endless stream of troops heading south. Song Shao had gone crazy. His hatred for Yang Dingtian had already reached the depths of his bones. His troops heading south were no longer just 350,000. They were actually continuously gathering and gathering. The current Song Zhao's desire to destroy Cloud Sky City was no less than that of Qin Chiqi and Ning Wuming. Qin Chiqi and Ning Wuming did not have much hatred for Yang Dingtian. They just wanted to make an example out of him. As for Song Shao and Song Minghua, it was a bone-deep hatred. They wanted to destroy Yang Dingtian and raze Cloud Sky City to the ground. The Poison Extension Strait was extremely complicated and dangerous. Almost every year, there would be an intense tsunami eruption. Almost every year, there would be an intense earthquake at the bottom of the sea. Therefore, only a section of the sea that was less than 2,000 meters wide could be crossed. At this moment, all the warships were crowded in this section of the sea. Although the world meeting was surrounded by the sea, ships could not be disembarked from these seas. Therefore, there were almost no warships in the world meeting. Yang Dingtian did not know where these ships came from. However, these ships were not large, and each ship could only transport 100 soldiers at a time. And in this section of the sea that was 2,000 meters wide, only about 10 ships could be lined up at most. Any more and there would be trouble. At this moment, this section of the sea that was 2,000 meters wide and 20,000 meters wide was crowded with hundreds of ships. These ships were neatly arranged in a square formation and sailed carefully. Their speed was not more than 10 kilometers per hour. Because of this, the World Meeting's army had already been crossing the sea for 3 days. Hundreds of ships had only transported a few 100,000 soldiers. There were still close to 300,000 soldiers waiting to cross the sea in the north. However, the good news was that a portion of the military equipment and warhorses had already crossed the strait. At this moment, the southern coast of the strait had become a huge military camp. Tens of thousands of logistics troops had already built a temporary defensive line here. 70 to 80,000 soldiers had already set up a defense here. Moreover, there were already about 1,000 members of the Devil Dragon army who had successfully crossed the sea and landed on the shore. At this moment, they were quickly patrolling the temporary defensive line. In the sky above the strait, close to 1,000 flying knights were vigilantly watching the airspace within 100 miles. They had the Air Army and the Devil Dragon Army. It was already very difficult to completely destroy the World Meeting's defensive line in the south. Unless Yang Dingtian was willing to mobilize the Devil Eagle Army and the entire Devil Dragon Army, as well as tens of thousands of soldiers. But this was impossible. If he mobilized such a large force to fight to the death, then what would happen when Qinchiqi's Real Army arrived at the city? At this moment, in this dangerous strait, the World Meeting's army had set up a three-dimensional defense of the sea, land, and air. Even if Yang Dingtian wanted to launch a surprise attack, there was no way he could do it. The defense was too tight. Especially since the experts of the World Meeting had almost all come out. Song Xiaojin, Martial Grandmaster, and 4 or 5 Martial Grandmaster elders, as well as an unknown number of martial honorable experts, were all eyeing covetously on both sides of the strait. It was impossible to launch a surprise attack halfway across the strait. Yang Dingtian had almost made a military order in the committee. He wanted to single-handedly destroy the World Meeting's hundreds of thousands of soldiers crossing the sea without any failure. How should he do it? Even though everyone in the committee didn't dare to believe this and couldn't imagine how he could do it. But they still chose to believe in Yang Dingtian. Then, how could Yang Dingtian achieve this impossible miracle? Whoosh! Yang Dingtian quickly turned invisible and entered the isolated space. Then, he continued to descend. In the isolated space, Yang Dingtian quickly consumed the elixir and held his breath. Immediately, Yang Dingtian silently dived into the seawater. That's right, the seawater here was poisonous. Suddenly, a strange and indistinct smell violently drilled into Yang Dingtian's nostrils. Even though Yang Dingtian was mentally prepared, his mind was still in a daze and he almost lost his mind. Yang Dingtian immediately sealed all the pores on his body. All the profound qi in his body entered his mouth. Then, he quickly used the mystic flame to build an energy shield around his body. Then, he continued to sink, sink, and sink. This was a lifeless sea. There were no living creatures in the sea. There was only green seawater forever. Even the seawater was almost not flowing. It was almost solidified. Everywhere was lifeless. Yang Dingtian continued to sink, sink, and sink. Suddenly, the pressure on his body became greater and greater. Below, the seawater became hotter and greener. This strait was too deep. There might even be huge casualties. Therefore, Yang Dingtian came personally. He felt that this detonation could only be done by him. However, it seemed that there was no need to use the mystic fires to collide. The crystals at the bottom of the sea were already extremely crowded. With a slight stimulation, it would explode, cause an earthquake, and a tsunami. Now, Yang Dingtian had to pay attention to not be injured in such a huge explosion. Yang Dingtian made a rough estimation. This time, the violent energy of the crystals at the bottom of the sea should be more than dozens or hundreds of great masters. Moreover, it would explode instantly upon impact. It wasn't like the underwater earthquake in the southern barbarian continent, which was mainly tearing and shaking. With Yang Dingtian's physique, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand such an instantaneous explosion. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to think of another way. He had to detonate the underwater earthquake and protect his own safety. Of course, this wasn't a problem for Yang Dingtian. He directly took out a huge metal ball from his space ring and used mystic fire to ignite the fuse. Then, he placed it on the terrifying energy crystals at the bottom of the sea. Then, Yang Dingtian quickly left. At this moment, in Cloud Sky City, under Song Chuanhua's orders, all the people outside the city had retreated back into the city in the shortest time possible. Even all the land military personnel had retreated back into the city. The huge open space outside the city was suddenly empty. Hundreds of flying cavalrymen patrolled in the air with extreme vigilance, searching every inch of information on the ground. This was because Yang Dingtian had just led the Demon Dragon army to attack Sky Thunder City and dealt a huge blow to the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa. Even young Master Cho Yiming had been captured. Therefore, the enemy might take revenge, and it would be a huge revenge. At this moment, the sky was gradually brightening. The first ray of sunlight had already shone from the east onto the ground. The flying cavalrymen of Cloud Sky City widened their eyes and looked at every inch of the ground, afraid of missing out on any information. In the city, Song Lihua rarely washed her face and brushed her teeth. As she washed her face, she complained to Song Chunhua, "Sister, do you know how many things have been delayed by us retreating back into the city? In less than a dozen miles, our city wall will be completely completed." For safety's sake, Song Chunhua said solemnly. "Where's your family's great leader, Yang Dingtian?" Song Lihua asked. Then, she desperately used the cold water to stimulate her face and body, afraid that she would fall asleep. She was completely sleepy. As long as she lay down, it was guaranteed that she wouldn't wake up for a few days. However, this wasn't the time to sleep. After a slight hesitation, she took off her clothes, revealing her graceful and thin body. She was prepared to thoroughly stimulate her body in the cold water and take a bath while she was at it. She didn't know how long it had been since she last bathed. Such a great beauty was about to rot. "Don't say such things," Song Chunhua said coldly. Song Lihua took off her clothes. Her entire body was like a mud monkey, and it was impossible to see what was going on. "I don't know if Qin Huayu will still dare to eat me after seeing me like this," Song Lihua said with a smile. Then, she shivered and directly dived into the cold water. Ah! After being hit by the cold water with ice cubes, the sleepy Song Lihua suddenly woke up and couldn't help but cry out. "What's wrong?" Qin Huayu's worried voice suddenly came from outside. It turned out that he had followed Song Lihua all the way here in a daze. Of course, he didn't dare to come in and just stood outside to guard. Hearing Song Lihua's cry, he couldn't help but ask worriedly. Song Lihua blushed and said, "It's nothing, idiot. Hurry up and leave. What do you want to do standing outside?" "Oh." Qin Huayu quickly fled with his tail between his legs. Song Lihua lay in the water, enjoying this extremely rare leisure time. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound. "Qin Huayu, why aren't you leaving?" Song Lihua said unhappily. However, there was no response. Then, Song Lihua clearly saw that the water in the bathtub began to tremble. Then, she clearly felt that the entire ground was trembling. "Enemy attack, enemy attack." The sharp bone whistle of the flying cavalry came from the sky outside. The soldiers on the city wall desperately rang the bell. "Enemy attack, enemy attack. Demon Dragon Army, assemble quickly. Garrison troops on the front line, assemble quickly. Enemy attack, enemy attack." The soldiers on the city wall could clearly see. In the distant horizon of the flat land, a black line appeared. A black line that was dozens of miles long. Boom, boom, boom. Then, in the midst of the trembling, countless black dots rushed towards Cloud Heaven City like lightning and a tidal wave. The patrolling flying cavalry in the sky were horrified to discover The demonic beast mounts that were galloping on the ground were actually larger than the demon dragon and looked even more terrifying and ferocious. Their running speed was not inferior to the demon dragons. This terrifying and huge demonic beast cavalry was unseen and unheard of. It was as if they had emerged from the depths of hell. The black mass spread over dozens of miles and rushed towards Cloud Sky City like a tide. Evil Wei's revenge was here. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was retreating at the fastest speed. Retreating, like lightning, he rushed out to the bottom of the sea 30,000 meters in an instant. Then, he suddenly flew up into the sky. Then, he used his flying mystic technique and invisibility mystic technique and instantly rushed up to a height of 10,000 meters. But even so, it instantly attracted the attention of the World Club's experts. In an instant, several master stage experts flew up into the sky. And at this moment, the fuse of the metal ball at the bottom of the sea burned out. Boom! There was a huge explosion. Boom, boom, boom. There was an earth-shattering explosion. An explosion that tore the sky and earth apart. The entire bottom of the sea suddenly exploded with a light that was hundreds of times brighter than the sun. The entire bottom of the sea was violently torn apart. Boom, boom, boom. Endless energy was violently torn apart. The entire surface of the sea suddenly sucked downward. There was half a second of silence. The experts of the World Club were instantly stunned as they looked at the strange sea surface. Boom! Then, the endless sea water surged violently. Huge waves that were hundreds of meters high were suddenly set off. All the ships on the sea were instantly smashed into pieces and turned into ashes in an instant. The shockingly huge waves crazily swept across both sides of the strait. The incomparably huge energy instantly tore the ground on both sides of the strait apart. Cracks that were hundreds of meters deep were fiercely torn apart. A huge crack suddenly appeared on the 100-mile mountain range behind Cloud Sky City. Chapter 474. Yang Dingtian floated in mid-air and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. He only wanted to destroy all the fairies on the surface of the sea. He didn't want to cause too many casualties to the world society. However, the scene in front of him was like hell. Needless to say, the fairies on the surface of the sea were instantly crushed. The people on the ferries were also instantly crushed. What was even more terrifying was that the ground on both sides of the strait was crazily torn apart as the monstrous waves swept across. Suddenly, the densely packed troops on both sides of the strait were washed away without a trace. The huge cracks on the ground were like the devil's mouth that opened up in hell. Countless troops fell one after another and were instantly swallowed without a trace. Of course, the experts of the World Society were only shocked for a moment after the drastic change. Then, before the monstrous waves swept over, they whizzed into the sky like meteors and escaped the disaster in an instant. As for the others, even the winged cavalry patrolling in the sky, it was too late for them to flap their wings and soar into the sky. They were immediately swallowed by the monstrous waves. The most powerful was still the Devil Dragon army. Yang Dingtian, who was high up in the sky, didn't realize that before the disaster happened and before the bottom of the sea exploded, the Devil Dragon mounts had already sensed the great danger. Then, all of them arched their bodies and crouched slightly on the ground. When the bottom of the sea exploded violently, these demonic dragon mounts were like lightning as they quickly ran to both sides. They were really like lightning. One team ran towards the south, while the other team ran towards the north. They ran for their lives. Then, the tsunami swept across both the north and the south, and the ground was violently torn apart. Regardless of whether it was the waves or the ground, their speed was astonishing. However, most of the Devil Dragon army managed to escape. Only a small number of Devil Dragon Knights fell into the cracks or were swallowed by the waves. Some of the Devil Dragon Knights that were swallowed by the cracks actually shot out. The strength of the devil dragon army would always make people gasp in amazement. Even the tsunami and the ground couldn't catch up with their speed. The drastic change lasted for a full 15 minutes. The ground stopped shaking and tearing. The waves also retreated back into the sea. Everything returned to silence. Song Shao, the leader of the world society, floated in the sky and looked at everything on the ground. His heart ached and his body turned cold. Both sides of the strait were completely devastated. It was like hell. On the surface of the sea, corpses were floating everywhere. The ground was littered with corpses. Of the 300,000 to 400,000 legions, how many had died? He had no idea at all and could not calculate at all. But what was certain was that the coastal areas on both sides of the strait were almost completely wiped out. Only top experts could escape by flying. Those who were close to the shore were almost all killed. If it was just an ordinary tsunami, they wouldn't die even if they were hit by the monstrous waves. But the key point was that these waves were highly toxic. 400,000 soldiers, how many were left? Was there still half left? Then, a series of wails came from the ground. On the ground on both sides of the coast, countless people were lying in the mud, screaming and struggling. The toxic seawater had already begun to take effect. Although these people hadn't died yet, after being soaked in the poisonous seawater and having the poisonous seawater enter their bodies, what followed next was hellish torture. First, they couldn't live, and then they couldn't die, and then they would die painfully. Song Shao was in the air, looking at the scene of devastation. His entire body began to tremble violently. Could it be that the heavens want me, Song Shao, and my world society to perish? I don't want to, I don't want to. Song Shao let out a series of angry howls. Pfft. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, his tall body fell directly from the air and fell backward. Leader, father, the surviving experts of the World Society quickly rushed over. At this time, Yang Dingtian didn't look at the hellish battle results at all. Instead, he quickly flew in the direction of Cloud Sky City. All the experts of Cloud Sky City rushed to the top of the city wall at the fastest speed. Of course, they were basically in the houses closest to the city wall. Looking at the enemy cavalry that rushed over like lightning, Song Chunhua and Qin Huayu's expressions suddenly changed. This is the demon wolf demon cavalry, a demonic beast cavalry from the half-human race. Qin Huayu said. The demon wolf demon cavalry came from the Dongli grassland of the Likan race. The Likan race was the most brutal and ferocious race of the half-human race. Of course, Yang Dingtian had encountered a very ferocious Likan race before. The Likan race and the Likan race sounded similar. But in fact, there was a big difference. These two races were considered to be close relatives. But the Likan race was closer to humans, while the Likan race was closer to demonic beasts. The Likan race, regardless of body size, combat strength, bloodthirstiness, or ferocity, surpassed the Likan race. In the Likan race, those that were completely in wolf form were used as mounts. And those that were in human form were used as knights. Qin Huayu obviously knew about the evil ways infiltration of the half-human race. He even participated in it. But he didn't expect that the half-human race's army had already infiltrated the human countries. Evil ways had actually mobilized the Likan race in the battle against Cloud Sky City. The demon dragon army was the overlord of the human cavalry. The demon wolf demon cavalry was the overlord of the half-human race's cavalry. Of course, no one knew which of the two was stronger. But there was a consensus on one point, and that was that the half-human race far surpassed humans in terms of strength and speed. Qin Huayu looked at the demon wolf demon cavalry that pounced at lightning speed. Every demonic wolf mount was also covered in hard armor. Not only that, the armor on their bodies was filled with sharp barbs. This meant that they didn't need to do anything. They could just charge at them at their fastest speed and kill countless of them. They could crush their targets into meat paste. They could clearly see that every demon wolf demon cavalry was 1 foot taller and 2 feet longer than the demon dragon cavalry. Their limbs were much thicker. What was even more terrifying was that every demon wolf demon cavalry had fangs that were almost a foot long and as sharp as blades. The demon wolf demon cavalry was actually bigger, thicker, and more ferocious than the demon dragon cavalry. The most important thing was their speed. When the first person discovered the demon wolf demon cavalry, they were about 100 miles away from the city wall. But in just 2 to 3 minutes, they had already charged a few dozen miles. Their speed is not inferior to the demon dragon cavalry. They might even be faster, Song Chunhua said. When she said this, everyone on the city wall was shocked and felt a chill run down their spine. They were even bigger, thicker, and more ferocious than the demon dragon cavalry. Moreover, they were even faster. How shocking was this? Evil ways of revenge were indeed fierce and vicious. They knew that the demon dragon cavalry was the trump card of Cloud Sky City. They were the trump card of Cloud Sky City and the source of their morale. Now, they had sent out the demon wolf demon cavalry to completely destroy Cloud Sky City's morale. They wanted to push the demon dragon cavalry down from their trump card status. The demon wolf demon cavalry was getting closer and closer. The earth-shattering sound was getting louder and louder. The trembling of the earth was getting more and more intense. The black mass of demon wolf cavalry was like a dark cloud. In the blink of an eye, they were about to reach them. At this moment, they were only 20 to 30 miles away from Cloud Sky City. How many are there? Qin Huayu asked. Should be 2,000, Song Chunhua said. Only 2,000? Qin Huayu said in surprise. This black mass that blotted out the sky and covered the earth only had 2,000. That's right. There were only 2,000 demon wolf demon cavalry. However, the size of each demon wolf was comparable to 3 war horses. Therefore, even though there were only 2,000 of them, it was as if there was an army of tens of thousands. They were filled with a destructive aura. That's right. Only 2,000. Song Chunhua said, because they know that we only have 2,000 demon dragon cavalry, they also sent out 2,000 demon wolf demon cavalry. They want us to have a decisive battle with the cavalry in advance. That's right. This wasn't just revenge. It was also a provocation. They were provoking Cloud Sky City's trump card army to see who was the true overlord of the land and who was the true king of cavalry. At this moment, more than 1,800 members of the demon dragon cavalry had gathered behind the city walls. Even though they had just laid down and rested, some of them and some of their mounts were still injured. But at this moment, when they heard the deafening and soul-stirring sounds outside, no matter if it was the demon dragon cavalry or the demon dragon mounts, their bodies were filled with a soaring fighting spirit. The demon dragon cavalry was not afraid of any cavalry. Even if this cavalry was bigger, thicker, and more ferocious than them. As long as Song Chunhua gave the order, the remaining 1,800 members of the demon dragon cavalry would charge out ferociously and fight to the death with the enemy. Chunhua, do you want the demon dragon cavalry to fight? Qin Huayu said, you have to make a decision. Yang Dingtian is not here. You are the highest commander. Should the demon dragon cavalry fight? If they didn't fight, it would be a coward. The pride of the demon dragon cavalry would be destroyed and the morale of Cloud Sky City would be extinguished. Fight! The incomparably precious 1,800 members of the demon dragon cavalry might be heavily injured or even completely wiped out. Their morale would fall to the bottom and Cloud Sky City would lose their greatest trump card. Song Chunhua immediately fell into a life and death situation. Amidst the rumbling sounds, the demon wolf cavalry got closer and closer. At this moment, even the riders on top could see them clearly. They were indeed werewolves. Although they were humans, their faces and bodies were all in the shape of wolves. The only difference was that they walked upright and had hands. Every werewolf rider was 2.5 meters tall. They were twice the size of the demon dragon cavalry. Their mouths were full of fangs and their bodies were covered in armor. They were completely like wild beasts. Seeing the werewolf riders, the people on top of the city walls shuddered. Their confidence in the demon dragon cavalry had greatly decreased. No matter if it was speed, size, or ferociousness, the demon dragon cavalry was inferior to the enemy's demon wolf cavalry. Song Chunhua, do you want to fight or not? You should make a decision. Qin Huayu shouted. Song Chunhua's face turned cold and shouted, everyone, get ready. Shoot! Song Chunhua didn't let the demon dragon cavalry fight. Instead, he shot arrows at the demon wolf cavalry. At this moment, the nearly 20,000 archers on the city wall had already drawn their bows and knocked their arrows, even though their bodies were pale and trembling. Although they were trembling, after hearing Song Chunhua's order, they still aimed and shot. Whoosh! Tens of thousands of arrows soared into the sky. It was a black mass. Like a storm, it smashed towards the densely packed demon wolf cavalry. Pa! A series of loud noises and countless sparks burst forth. Countless arrows smashed onto the demon wolf cavalry. However, there was almost no effect. When the arrows hit the armor on the demon wolf cavalry, they only burst forth with sparks and left a shallow pit. They didn't cause any damage to the demon wolves and couldn't even stop them from advancing quickly. The demon wolf cavalry violently approached. They were less than 10 miles away from the city walls. The people in the city could even smell the stench of blood. Song Chunhua clenched his teeth and shouted, Demon Dragon Cavalry, attack! Yes! In an instant, the demon dragon cavalry behind the city walls rushed out like lightning. Without opening the city gates, the demon dragon cavalry directly climbed up the city walls. They climbed up the city walls like a tide and then jumped down the city walls like lightning. They charged towards the demon wolf cavalry like lightning. Song Chunhua abruptly pulled out her sword and leaped, landing on the demonic dragon at the very front. Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue, Shimen Lai, and the other experts all jumped out. Formation. Following Song Chunhua's order, the demon dragon cavalry quickly got into formation, still in the sword formation. Song Chunhua, Zhu Hongxue, and Qin Huayu were the sword. The rest of the experts were all the blades. Kill! More than 1,000 demon dragon cavalry let out a shocking roar, bursting with fighting spirit. As for the 2,000 demon wolf cavalry, their blood boiled as they let out waves of roars. Immediately after, the 2,000 demon wolf cavalry also began to quickly gather, forming a sword formation. The speed of gathering was completely on par with the demon dragon cavalry. Suddenly, on the huge plains in front of Cloud Sky City, 2 elite cavalry formed 2 terrifying sharp blades, charging as fast as lightning. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 2 armies were extremely fast, like lightning, tearing through the air, making bursts of whistling. At a speed of 500 to 600 miles per hour. The short 10 miles stopped in an instant. The 2 most powerful cavalry kings instantly collided. Boom boom boom. An earth-shattering sound. Pa 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 pa, mystic fire soaring into the sky. Lightning tearing through the sky. The sharp blades formed by the 2 elite cavalry fiercely stabbed together. Countless corpses flew into the air. Countless blood spurted out. Demon beast mounts weighing more than 10,000 pounds directly flew into the sky. The most naked collision, the most ferocious collision, the most brutal collision. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the 2 saw each other and stabbed at each other with incomparable ferocity. Suddenly, everyone on the city wall was shocked and silent. Looking at the craziest, most terrifying, and most violent battle they had ever seen. Very few were injured. Under the collision of incomparably terrifying forces, under the slashing of incomparably terrifying blades. All of them died, all of them were smashed into pieces. After the rapid close combat, after the crazy collision. Next, there was an even crazier battle, an even more terrifying entanglement. The two ace cavalry armies instantly strangled each other crazily. The two trump card cavalry armies instantly gathered in a very small space. Crazy eruption, crazy tearing, crazy killing. Demon wolf demon cavalry possessed innate bloodthirstiness, innate brutality, and innate fearlessness. The demon dragon army possessed all human emotions, including fear. However, there was more absolute glory and absolute pride. The huge sword in his hand, the scimitar in his hand. It was even difficult to withstand 4 or 5 slashes and directly shattered. However, the shattered swords and blades were still fiercely stabbing. The shattered shields were instantly thrown aside. The unprotected knights raised their broken swords and broken blades and charged even more crazily. It was not only the knights who were fighting. There were also mounts. The sharp claws and fangs of the demon wolf mounts bit and tore crazily. The sharp claws of the demon dragon mounts pierced crazily and trampled crazily. Fear, fear, pain. Everything was thrown beyond the 9 heavens. What they had was the most bone-piercing and hot-blooded battle. At the same time, on the city wall, there were war drums soaring into the sky. Boom 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 boom, bang 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 bang, the sky was instantly dyed red with blood. After 15 minutes, the battle ended. That's right, it was only 15 minutes. The crazy battle only lasted for 15 minutes. The battlefield within a radius of a few miles was covered in blood, broken limbs, and corpses. Song Chunhua sheathed her sword. She glanced at her comrades beside her and at the corpses all over the ground. The 2,000 demon wolf army had been completely annihilated. They were not injured, they did not escape, they were all dead. The demon dragon army had won again. That's right, the demon wolf demon cavalry was more brutal, thicker, bigger, and faster. However, the demon dragon army was more fearless, more precise, and more tenacious. In fact, at the moment of close combat, even though Song Chunhua, Zhu Hongxue, and Qin Huayu were the tip of the blade, the demon dragon army was still at a disadvantage. That was because the explosive power of the demon wolf army was too terrifying. It was completely destructive. It was like a violent storm. However, as the battle deepened, the combat power of the demon wolf army was constantly decreasing. Their ferocity and brutality were gradually decreasing. Like all wild beasts, they bullied the weak and feared the strong. After feeling the terror of the enemy, the demon wolf demon cavalry had already become timid and wanted to retreat. As for the demon dragon army, they were terrifyingly tenacious. The more they fought, the braver and crazier they became. Therefore, even though the enemy was stronger in an instant. However, the demon dragon army was still the final victor. They proved to the whole world that they were the absolute overlords of the land. After the victory, there were no cheers or celebrations. They only glanced at the corpses all over the ground, regardless of whether they were the enemies or their comrades. Return to the city, Song Chunhua ordered. The victorious demon dragon army quickly returned to the city like lightning. The people on the city wall saw it clearly. Only half of the demon dragon army returned. That's right, it was only half. The demon dragon army had proved that they were the overlords of the land. They had killed the demon wolf army, which had more explosive power. However, they had also paid close to half of the price. The soldiers were cheering and cheering. Their morale was high. As for the higher-ups of Cloud Sky City, their hearts were trembling. They were heartbroken. They had lost close to half of their trump card army. At this moment, the Poison Extension Strait had completely calmed down. The remaining World Society troops on the North Shore had already retreated. Song Shao vomited blood and fainted. The experts of World Society were afraid that something unexpected would happen. They immediately ordered the remaining troops to retreat. The countless corpses on the ground, both dead and alive soldiers, were all left behind. Especially on the land of the South Shore, there were countless miserable cries. Countless soldiers were struggling in hellish pain. At this moment, the demon dragon army of world society, who had successfully escaped, gradually gathered at the seaside. Looking at the corpses of their comrades on the ground, their faces were filled with incomparable pain. "Commander, they have left. Guild leader and the others have all left. They have abandoned us. They have abandoned all our brothers," a demon dragon army officer said as he stepped forward. The fifth commander of the demon dragon army looked at the corpses on the ground with incomparable pain. There was no one left on the North Shore. The higher-ups of world society and everyone else had already retreated. They had all abandoned them on the South Shore. The strait, which was only 20 miles long, had become an insurmountable moat. "Commander, we shouldn't have come this time," the officer said. "In Cloud Sky City, how many of our brothers are our own? I feel that they are the ones who are right." The fifth commander looked at the wailing brothers on the ground and said, "What do we do now? Are we just going to watch as tens of thousands of our brothers die here? Why don't we go to Cloud Sky City and ask them to save our brothers?" the officer said. "Cloud Sky City," the fifth commander said, "but we were originally going to attack Cloud Sky City. Now, are we going to ask them for help?" "Commander, there is no other choice," the officer said. The commander's gaze froze. "All right. Since world society has abandoned us, then we will find our own way out. All brothers, go south to Cloud Sky City. Let Cloud Sky City save our brothers." Following the command of the 5th Demon Dragon Army's commander, more than 1,000 Demon Dragon Army warriors immediately rushed towards Cloud Sky City like lightning. Yang Dingtian flew back to Cloud Sky City at his fastest speed. When he was still a few miles away from Cloud Sky City, he could already smell the stench of blood. Something had happened. Something had happened when he left Cloud Sky City. Then, he saw the blood-soaked Demon Dragon Army quickly return to the city. Behind them, within a few miles, there was blood and corpses everywhere. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's heart twitched. The enemy had indeed come for revenge. And it was when Yang Dingtian left that they came for revenge. Who knew what army had been dispatched? But it was definitely an extremely terrifying cavalry army. Although the Demon Dragon Army had once again obtained a great victory, this loss was heart-wrenching. Song Chunhua, Qin Huaiyu, and the other two were the last to enter the city. They waited until all the Demon Dragon Army brothers had entered the city. At this moment, a sharp whistle suddenly came from the sky. It was an extremely distant and impassioned whistle. Then, a golden light suddenly pierced into Song Chunhua's eyes. Then, the sky darkened. Countless golden eagles screeched as they flew towards Cloud Sky City, covering the sky and covering the sun. The Golden Eagle Army of Middle States Eagle Nest. The enemy's revenge. It was not over yet. After the Demon Wolf Demon Cavalry Army was completely annihilated, they immediately sent their trump card in the sky, the Golden Eagle Army. Golden dots filled the sky as they whizzed towards Cloud Sky City. Everyone in Cloud Sky City looked at the sky in shock. Their eyes were filled with undisguised shock and even fear. Densely packed enemies came from the sky. They could not help but think, could it be that the final battle had come early? Qin Huaiyu said to Song Chunhua, "It's the enemy's Golden Eagle Army. Now that you are the highest commander, immediately order our trump card, the Demon Eagle Army, to attack. We will definitely be able to annihilate the enemy's Golden Eagle Army. I sincerely beg you." Chapter 475. At this time, there were no more than 10 people who knew that the Demon Vulture Legion had come to Cloud Sky City. It was an absolute secret. Just like the Demon Dragon Legion was the overlord of the land, the Demon Vulture Legion was the overlord of the air, the absolute overlord. At this time, Qin Huaiyu saw the sky full of Golden Eagle flying cavalry and immediately ordered Song Chunhua to send out the Demon Vulture Legion. Song Chunhua did not answer. Instead, she jumped directly onto the city wall and looked into the sky. How many Golden Eagle flying cavalry are there? Song Chunhua asked. We are still observing, the soldier in the watchtower said loudly. How many Golden Eagles were there? For a moment, the number was not clear. They could only see the sky in the distance, densely packed and everywhere. About 10 miles, dozens of miles of the sky were all covered by Golden Eagles. Song Chunhua suddenly flew into the air. In a higher and wider field of vision, she began to count. In the end, the result that he came up with completely shocked him. There were a total of about 800 Golden Eagle warriors, less than 1,000. That's right, there were fewer than the Demon Wolf Demon Cavalry just now. But looking at the way they covered the sky, it was really too scary. It gave people the feeling that there were thousands of them, as if they could completely cover the entire Cloud Sky City. In fact, this was not strange at all. In the movies on Earth, how many fighter jets were there in the scene of the largest fighter jet whistling in the sky? Basically, there were no more than a few dozen. If 300 to 400 fighter jets were sent out at once, it would completely cover the sky. And to send out 300 to 400 fighter jets at once, only World War II movies would have it. Japan's sneak attack on Pearl Harbor was already an incomparably huge air operation. But only about 300 fighter jets were sent out, and they were divided into two groups. But in the movie, the sky was densely packed with fighter jets. It was extremely shocking. The size of the World War II fighter jets was not much bigger than the Golden Eagles. Each Golden Eagle was more than 8 meters long and had a wingspan of more than 10 meters. Therefore, the image of 800 Golden Eagles whizzing to a halt in the air was incomparably impactful. It directly gave people the feeling that there were at least tens of thousands of them. But even if there were only 800 of them, it was already the biggest scene that everyone present had ever seen. All the winged cavalry in Cloud Sky City added up, there were only a few hundred of them. Moreover, they had never gathered to fly, the Golden Eagle Legion flew faster. They were approaching Cloud Sky City at a speed of almost 5 kilometers per minute. Chunhua, we have to decide immediately whether or not we should mobilize the Demon Eagle Army. Qin Huaiyu said, we don't have any power to stop this Golden Condor Legion, even if there are only 800 of them. If they rush into Cloud Heaven City, the consequences will be fatal. Song Chunhua shook her head and said, we can't dispatch the Demon Vulture Army. The enemy has a total of 10,000 Golden Condors, but only 800 have been dispatched, so there is no doubt that this is not only revenge, but also a test. That's right, it was a test. This was despite the fact that the earth-splitting city had blocked all news and information. Therefore, Evil Ways were not sure if Yang Dingtian had obtained the Demon Vulture Army from Fisher City. Therefore, he sent out 800 Golden Condors to test the waters. 800, what a painful number. Without the Demon Vulture Army, there was no way they could win. It would bring a lot of casualties to Cloud Sky City. However, if he mobilized the Demon Vulture Army, his trump card would be completely exposed. Evil Ways might find a way to deal with the Demon Vulture Army. One had to know that the Demon Vulture Army was Yang Dingtian's last trump card on the day of the decisive battle. It was one of his biggest trump cards. Once exposed in advance, it would be very disadvantageous for the decisive battle in the future. Qin Huaiyu's brows furrowed painfully as he said, then we can only watch as these 800 Golden Eagle flying cavalry charge into Cloud Sky City and kill wantonly and rampage. There's no other way. The trump card of the Demon Vulture Army must not be exposed, Song Chunhua said firmly. Then, she waved the flag and shouted, all flying cavalry, gather and prepare for battle. At this time, all the flying cavalry in Cloud Sky City quickly gathered behind the city wall. In total, there were only a few hundred of them, and there were all kinds of flying cavalry. The knights on the flying cavalry were already looking at death calmly. They clearly knew that this time, they would definitely not return. Because the gap between them and the Golden Condor Legion was extremely huge. Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue, and the other experts had no choice but to jump on their flying mounts again. Then, 300 to 400 flying mounts of Cloud Sky City gathered in the air. Song Chunhua's heart was heavy. She took a deep breath and shouted, "Attack!" Suddenly, the 300 to 400 flying mounts rushed toward the mighty Golden Condor Legion. On the city wall, everyone's hearts were filled with sorrow. Just from the image, the Golden Condor Legion was many times larger than the 300 to 400 flying cavalry in Cloud Sky City. This was because each Golden Condor alone was much larger than the flying mounts in Cloud Sky City. Moreover, no matter how hard Song Chunhua and the others tried to command, the formation of Cloud Sky City's flying troops was still scattered. And the Golden Condor Legion was neat and tidy, sharp and oppressive. At a glance, one could see that the other party had a completely one-sided advantage. As the Golden Condor Legion approached, the hundreds of flying cavalry in Cloud Sky City began to tremble and become afraid. If people were afraid, they could rely on bravery, glory, and passion. However, if the flying mounts were afraid, there was no other way. This was because most of these flying cavalry mounts were not battle mounts. They were just transportation mounts and flying tools. Therefore, the Golden Condor Legion became sharper and more ferocious. Every Golden Condor had an ominous glint in their eyes as they screeched and brandished their claws. The 300 to 400 flying cavalry in Cloud Sky City began to tremble. Then, they completely stopped moving forward and even fled in all directions. At this time, the morale on the city wall of Cloud Sky City was even lower. Song Chunhua tried her best but was completely unable to control these flying mounts. They had already fled in all directions. Suddenly, it was chaos. The Golden Condor Legion was ecstatic. They accelerated and swooped down, about to start a complete massacre. At this moment, a whoop, behind Cloud Sky City, there was a beast-like roar. Whoosh, then, there was a whistling sound that tore through the air. A black shadow instantly streaked across the sky. A demon condor. That's right, there was only one. But this demon condor was nearly 20 meters long and had a wingspan of more than 20 meters. It was like a black lightning, roaring and roaring. It ferociously rushed toward the Golden Condor Legion. Long live! Suddenly, there was a wild cheer on the city wall. Although there was only one demon condor, the momentum that rushed out in an instant was too shocking. There was only one demon condor, but it was like an army of thousands of men and horses. It faced the 800 mighty demon condor legion and stabbed fiercely. Moreover, the demon condor did not let out the screech of the flying cavalry. Instead, it roared and howled like a huge beast. This demon condor was, of course, the one that was given to Yang Dingtian by Fisher City. And the rider on the demon condor was, of course, Yang Dingtian himself. This demon condor was originally the most majestic demon condor king in Fisher City. The speed that it rushed out in an instant made Yang Dingtian extremely shocked. At a speed of more than 1,000 miles per hour, it whistled through the air. It was completely like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, its speed was actually twice that of the Golden Condor Legion. In the blink of an eye, this demon condor directly passed through the 300 to 400 flying cavalry in Cloud Sky City and rushed directly toward the 800 golden condors. That momentum was not like Don Quixote hitting the windmill at all, but like a fierce tiger rushing into a flock of sheep. And the 800 golden condor flying cavalry in front, seeing such a huge demon condor lightning flying over, were also shocked and instantly froze in the air for a moment. At this moment, Yang Dingtian rode the demon condor king and rushed into the golden condor formation with incomparable ferocity. Swoosh! In an instant, two huge wings suddenly hardened and turned into two incomparably huge sharp blades. Swoosh 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 swoosh, all the way across. Blood all the way. The body of the demon condor, as it grew older, became more tenacious and terrifying. The whole body of this demon condor king was already as hard as iron. After the two wings condensed in an instant, it was completely a deadly flying blade of dozens of meters. Ah! Ao! Suddenly, the bodies of many golden condors were cut open alive. Golden feathers flew, blood spurted, and fell one after another. The demon condor king, with the inertia of flying more than 1,000 miles per hour, directly penetrated the 800 golden condor formation. In an instant, dozens of golden condor mounts were killed and injured. Long live, long live! On the city wall, there was a sudden roar. And Qin Huayu and Song Chunhua were instantly shocked. This demon condor was so powerful. With one sprint, it killed dozens of golden condors. If thousands of demon condors charged in unison, how terrible it would be, it was completely unimaginable. After penetrating the golden condor formation, the demon condor king howled proudly and fiercely. After flying out for more than 10 miles, it suddenly stopped and turned around, began to accelerate, and continued to rush toward the golden condor formation. At this time, the golden condor legion finally woke up and was extremely angry. The golden condor was also an extremely arrogant and ferocious demon beast flying cavalry. Just now, they were stunned by the killing. At this time, it was already soaring anger and fighting spirit. Grandma, you only have one fucking, and you're still so arrogant. We'll tear you apart alive. Suddenly, hundreds of golden condors fiercely changed their formation and rushed madly toward the demon condor king from all directions. In an instant, the demon condor king was surrounded from front to back, left to right, up and down, without the slightest space. Ao! While roaring fiercely, they fought madly. Suddenly, a demon condor king and hundreds of golden condors fiercely fought together. For a time, in this more than 10 miles of airspace, the sound of killing shook the sky, and blood spurted wildly. Countless feathers fell one after another. The demon condor king's hard as iron scales fell one after another. There was also a rain of blood all over the sky. The golden condor was undoubtedly ferocious. Although the demon condor king was extremely powerful, in a short period of time, it was already dripping with blood and scarred. The golden condor's beak, the golden condor's claws, and the warrior's blade on the golden condor's body. It caused countless scars to this more than 20 meters long demon condor king. However, the more the demon condor king fought, the fiercer it became. At first, it was just a wing slash, directly cutting off the golden condor's neck. Later, it directly tore with its claws. As long as the golden condor was clawed, in less than half a second, it was directly torn apart and dismembered into 8 pieces. When it reached the most ferocious point, the golden condor used its claws, mouth, and wings. In an instant, it was a mess, a pool of blood, and a pile of rotten flesh. It completely ignored the golden condor's biting, its claws grabbed one and tore it apart. Its mouth bit one, biting off the entire golden condor's head and crushing it. Its wings swept wildly in the air, forming an incomparably huge fan. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the huge wings that were as hard as knives became a deadly killing weapon. All the surrounding golden condors were cut off and chopped into pieces. Yang Dingtian clearly felt that this demon condor king also had Xian Qi, and it had the Xian Qi cultivation of a high-level martial venerable. It was not a high-level martial venerable of a human, but a high-level martial venerable of a large demon beast. It condensed Xian Qi on its wings, and suddenly there was nothing it could not conquer. Suddenly, countless golden condors were minced into pieces. Suddenly, Song Chunhua and Qin Huayu were completely stunned. Was this still a flying mount? This this was completely a top expert, a killing machine. For a time, hundreds of golden condors were also frightened by the killing and retreated. This golden condor's whirlwind slash was too amazing. Hundreds of golden eagles had been crushed into minced meat. Of course, only Yang Dingtian knew that once the whirlwind slash ended, the demon condor king's Xian Qi would be completely exhausted. Moreover, at this time, the demon condor king's wings were already scarred. Once the Xian Qi was exhausted, the demon condor king would basically lose its fighting strength. Therefore, it used up all its Xian Qi and used the shocking whirlwind slash, directly killing hundreds of golden condors. Its purpose was to scare the other party away, so that they would not dare to approach and escape. In fact, it was about to succeed. These golden condors, each one of them was incomparably terrified. They completely ignored the shouts of the knights above and turned to flee. Hundreds of golden condors were actually scared out of their wits by the demon condor king. It had to be said that this result was completely unexpected by Yang Dingtian. It was too heaven-defying. He knew that the demon condor king was powerful, but he had never thought that it would be so powerful. It was absolutely the overlord of the sky, and there was no opponent in the sky. When its Xian Qi was exhausted, the demon condor king stopped the whirlwind slash. But it was still majestic, like a king, floating in the air, flapping its huge wings, looking down at these golden condors with disdain. Its eyes revealed a terrifying murderous aura and a king's domineering aura. Damn, this demon condor king also knew how to play psychological warfare. It obviously had no Xian Qi left, but instead of running away, it still wanted to scare people here. Sure enough, these golden condors immediately turned around and fled. Then, Yang Dingtian and the others were about to welcome the most unexpected ending. Just one demon condor king scared off hundreds of golden condors. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a strange whistle came from the golden condor army, releasing a strange note energy. Suddenly, the fleeing golden condors turned around and gathered around the whistle. This whistle could directly control the golden condors, making them completely forget their fear. Hundreds of golden condors gathered again. The demon condor king's empty fort strategy had been seen through. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, then, hundreds of golden condor warriors once again ferociously rushed towards the demon condor king. Yang Dingtian's heart went cold. At this time, the demon condor king had exhausted its Xian Qi, and it couldn't even withstand the killing of 10 golden condors, let alone hundreds of them. Almost instantly, hundreds of golden condors surrounded the demon condor king again. Then, under the silent command, hundreds of golden condors, from all directions, madly attacked. All of a sudden, the demon condor king was about to be completely smashed. Whoosh! Almost instantly, hundreds of golden condors swallowed the demon condor king and drowned it. At the same time, the sky suddenly darkened. The sun disappeared, and terrible black clouds instantly shrouded the sky. In the horrified cries, the demon condor king was instantly swallowed up. Everyone's heart went cold, waiting for the demon condor king to be smashed to pieces. Pa! Suddenly, an incomparably huge bolt of lightning shot out. It was Yang Dingtian, who exhausted his Xian Qi and used the demon sky split. Suddenly, a lightning of hundreds of feet slammed out. Pa! Suddenly, all the golden condors around were shocked and flew away in shock. Feathers fell one after another. Dozens of golden condors were charred black. 4 or 5 golden condors fell directly from the sky and were electrocuted to death. Yang Dingtian was shocked. His demon sky split lightning was completely displayed to the extreme. It can be said that this lightning was enough to kill more than a dozen ordinary martial honorable experts. And these golden condors, without a doubt, did not have the cultivation of martial ancestor. However, only 4 or 5 were electrocuted to death. It can be seen how different demon beasts and human beings were. the defensive power and lethality of demon beasts were much stronger than human warriors of the same level. Even with Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he may only be able to kill dozens of golden condors before completely exhausting all of his Xian qi. The golden condors that were scared away by the lightning gathered again and once again surrounded the demon condor king. Then, they fiercely charged and converged. Yang Dingtian, again, used the demon sky split. A huge lightning bolt struck out. This time, only 3 golden condors were electrocuted and fell down. Even though they were scared away again, these golden eagles gathered together even faster and surrounded him again. At this time, Yang Dingtian's Xian Qi could only release the demon sky split lightning twice at most, and each time was weaker than the previous. However, the golden condors had already seen through the demon condor king's real situation and were about to kill the demon condor king. Hundreds of golden condors gathered again and rushed for the 3rd time. Squeak! At this time, the hundreds of winged cavalry in the periphery of Cloud Sky City seemed to have been greatly infected. They suddenly forgot their fear and were not afraid of death at all. They ferociously rushed towards the golden condor army. Song Chunhua suddenly shot out a Xian fire and a lightning bolt. In an instant, 7 or 8 golden condors were directly charred black and fell to the ground. Qin Huayu's Xian fire also directly blasted 7 golden condors into charcoal. Zhu Hongxue was slightly worse. The Xian fire blasted 5 to death. Suddenly, the 3 experts desperately used their Xian Qi and Xian fire to attack the golden condor army. Although they were majestic. However, it made Yang Dingtian and the others realize the fragility of humans in front of demonic beasts. A master-level expert could only kill dozens of golden condor demonic beasts that were not even at the martial ancestor level. In this kind of crazy release of Xian fire and lightning, countless golden condors fell one after another. In the air, feathers were flying everywhere. Half a quarter of an hour later, only half of the 800 golden condors were left. 400 of them were killed alive. Among them, 200 were killed by the demon condor king alone. Yang Dingtian, Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue, and Song Chunhua had only managed to kill around 200 of them. At this time, the crazy killing did not scare the golden condors away. Instead, it made them ferocious, and their eyes turned red. After the few people's Xian Qi was exhausted, they were completely passive in an instant. Next, it was a completely one-sided massacre. The ferocious Golden Condor army carried out a crazy massacre on the flying mounts of Cloud Sky City. In an instant, the flying mounts fell one after another. And all of them died without a complete corpse. They were directly torn into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and meat paste splattered everywhere. The killing in the air had reached the most tragic scene. In less than 3 minutes, all the flying mounts of Cloud Sky City would be slaughtered clean. Although these flying mounts were aroused at this time, their fighting strength was completely different from the Golden Condors. After experiencing such a terrifying massacre, these flying mounts all fled in terror. Next, not only the Demon Condor King was going to die. Even Yang Dingtian and the others were in fatal danger. Because their Xian Qi was almost completely exhausted. At this time, the 4 of them were all on the Demon Condor King. As for the Demon Condor King, his Xian Qi was exhausted, and he was scarred. He was already weak. Next, facing the siege of the 400 Golden Condor army, they could not resist or even escape. Unexpectedly, in this battle, not only the Demon Condor King could not be saved, but Yang Dingtian was also in danger. The other party had only dispatched 800 Golden Condors. The final battle had not yet come. Hundreds of thousands of troops, millions of troops, and the Ning Clan Legion had not yet arrived. At this time, the 400 Golden Condor army suddenly retreated a few thousand meters and began to set up a formation. Every Golden Condor had blood-red eyes. They were going to carry out the last massacre, the last attack. This attack, They not only wanted to destroy the demon Condor King, but also tear all these humans into pieces. Caw! After the formation was completed, hundreds of golden condors, with a sharp cry, madly rushed toward Yang Dingtian and the others, toward the demon Condor King. At this time, the demon Condor King, whose Xian Qi had been exhausted, was under Yang Dingtian. In its eyes, a domineering aura suddenly surged, and an incomparably proud gaze surged. Immediately afterward, it shook violently and bounced hard. Directly, Yang Dingtian and the others were directly bounced out. Then, it alone, with incomparable pride and determination, rushed toward the hundreds of golden condors. The demon Condor King, even if it exhausted its Xian Qi, even if it was scarred, even if it was dying, it would never retreat. It would fight to the end, fight to the last drop of blood. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian and the others saw an incomparably tragic scene. The demon Vulture King, who was on the verge of death, rushed towards the 400 golden eagles alone. This time, it was the real Don Quixote. Yang Dingtian's heart shook violently, and tears fell like rain. He suddenly flew into the air, pulled out his sword, and exhausted the last of his Xian Qi. Boom! Using the last demon sky split. In an instant, a long bolt of lightning slammed down. This bolt of lightning was smaller and thinner than Yang Dingtian's previous demon sky split lightning. However, it was very long, straight to the sky, rushing directly into the clouds. After using the demon sky split, Yang Dingtian's Xian Qi was completely exhausted, and he fell directly from the sky. At this time, the lonely demon Condor King was about to rush together with the 400 golden condors, and it was about to be completely crushed. Pa! Suddenly, from the dark clouds in the sky, an earth-shattering bolt of lightning slammed down. It was as thick as a mountain. Lightning that spanned hundreds of miles. It slammed down. The sky and earth changed color, and light burst out, as if the end of the world. Boom! The incomparably terrifying lightning, as if the sky and earth had changed dramatically, slammed into the golden condor army. Pa! In an instant, the 400 golden condors suddenly froze. Then, all of them turned into charcoal, and all of them turned into ashes. In an instant, they turned into countless ashes and fell down one after another. At the same time, the demon Condor King also fell from the sky. Everyone on the city wall, everyone in Cloud Sky City. Seeing this scene, their bodies trembled, and tears filled their eyes. They looked at this scene in disbelief. At the moment of despair, when the demon Condor King was about to be destroyed, when Yang Dingtian was about to be defeated, Yang Dingtian's demon sky split the terrifying dark clouds in the sky, triggering earth-shattering lightning. In an instant, all of the Golden Condor army were destroyed, and all of them were smashed into pieces and turned into ashes. This was Yang Dingtian, who used the power of heaven and earth to destroy the 400 Golden Condor army. Under the leadership of Yang Dingtian, Cloud Sky City reversed again, once again creating an impossible victory and an impossible miracle. After a long silence, on Cloud Sky City, there was a tsunami-like roar. Long live, long live. Long live Yang Dingtian, long live City Lord Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian was caught by Song Chunhua in the air. Qin Huayu and Zhu Hongxue desperately flew to catch the falling demon Condor King. Yang Dingtian looked at the demon Condor King and shouted in his heart, "Long live the demon Condor King." At the same time, in the northern mountain range of Cloud Sky City, countless black shadows suddenly appeared. Like lightning, they rushed to the vulnerable and defenseless Cloud Sky City on the back. In the highest tower of Cloud Sky City, the bell suddenly rang and roared. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! In the north, more than 1,000 black lightning bolts, in the mountain range, as if they were walking on flat ground, stopped instantly. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.